Round 3 of the GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS, is at the revised Zandvoort circuit on the Dutch coast. 22 cars coming out to play. The meeting started in sunshine, but rain has blown through in the interim. But plenty to be fighting for. The overall honours, the Silver Cup, and the Pro-Am class as well. But last time out, the second of the two races at Manicourt, this one held in daylight, was very busy from the outset. Simon Gachet led away from pole, but that first corner, as it always had, just proved a little too tempting to go in too deeply. Spinners in the middle of the pack, and those at the back could see precious little. Those out front were very, very fortunate indeed. Let's take a look from another angle as the cars weave their way down to the opening corner, jockeying for position. A little tap here, a rub there, and then just with one car running wide, snapping to the left, suddenly it was very, very tricky in behind, with some amazing footage as the Lexus got up tight, then eventually went running through the gravel trap to continue on its way. Cars coming from the left, cars from the right, and the 108 Bentley for Pierre-Alexandre Jean looking very battered indeed. But when everything was cleared, the green flag was waved. It was Simon Gachet pulling away at the front, the 163 Lamborghini, one of two from Emil Frey Racing, getting up close and personal with the Team WRT Audi. And then out of the pits came the Hout Racing Team Mercedes, in dived one of the two Santalok Racing Audis, but it was the case of Simon Gachet doing a brilliant opening stint, smoky exit from the pits from his teammate Stephen Palette, but a very, very good run indeed. The ACA ASP 88 Mercedes also right in the mix, coming out just in front of Palette, but Palette with full racing speed got up alongside and rubbing his racing. They say this was the battle for overall honours. The Mercedes in front for a while, but the Audi was coming, and unfortunately the 88 Mercedes ran that little bit wide through the gravel, tried to get it back on the track before the Audi took the lead, but it failed. In Pro-Am it was super busy among the Ferraris. The AF Corsa running that little bit wide, and then it was the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferraris first and second. It was the 92 car shared by Jonathan Cui and Giancarlo Fisichella that came through, but in the end it was the Santalok 26 Audi taking the lead and winning the race. The checkered flag falling on the second and third place Mercedes from ACA ASP and Hout Racing Team, after Simon Gachet and Stephen Palette outright and overall victors for Santalok Racing. The all-Belgian lineup of Dries Van Tor and Charles Weerts lead the championship, and they come to Zandvoort with very high hopes indeed.
Well, yeah, we had a really good weekend in Manicourt, scored a lot of points, didn't win, but still did P3 and P4, so it was really good. This weekend we worked really hard with the team to make sure we are competitive. Looks like it's the case. We had a really good first week practice. Looks like the weekend is going to be wet though, so let's see how it goes.
Felipe Fraga has joined Timo Bogoslawski in the number 88 Mercedes from ACA ASP and is looking for glory among the sand dunes.
I love to do the sprint races because you don't need to save too much. It's always pushing on the limit. And yeah, it looks we are quite good here as well. The team is doing a great job for the whole season. So far so good, and yeah, let's see how is my performance and the team performance this weekend in a sprint weekend.
CMR Bentleys have not won this year, but Nelson Panciatici is looking forward to the Dutch race.
It's true that in Manicourt we had a difficult weekend. We had a lot of problems with the brakes, so I think for this weekend we solved the problem. So we hope to come back in the strong position like we were in Misano, and so I hope we will have a good weekend.
Lamborghini was super strong at Zandvoort in 2019, and Albert Costa really reckons their chances look very good this time around.
It's a new track for me. It's really nice. I already heard about the banking here, there. It's very, very nice. Actually, the first practice was quite well, I have to say. We still some work to do, but looks okay. I don't want to say too much because maybe it's gonna change, but it's promising. So let's keep fingers crossed and let's see tomorrow or this afternoon how it goes.
Simon Gachet and Stephen Palette are starring in the Silver Cup. They topped the class, and last time out at Manicourt, they won outright as well.
It was start a good season for us with Steven. He did a good job. The car is pretty well, so we need to continue here at Zandvoort and at Barcelona to be on the top and to keep our leading championship.
German racing brothers Hamza and Yusuf Awega are really making great strides through 2020. And 18-year-old Yusuf is absolutely flying.
I think we're definitely going in the right direction. Our performance has been very good and consistent, and I think consistency is the key. And just like the previous 2 race weekends here at Zandvoort, we just need to be consistent, keep the races clean pit stops and no mistakes, and I think the goal will come towards us like that.
Mad Panda Motorsport is a new kid on the block this year, with Ezekiel Perez Compact turning to become a Mercedes racer, and on board with him this year is his new teammate Axel Jeffries from Zimbabwe, and he's a driver who can't wait to have his first experience of the Dutch circuit.
To be honest, it's actually my first time racing in Zandvoort, so this is all I know. It was my first time on track this morning. The banking seems really cool, particularly the last corner. It's apparently it's taken away a little bit of character, because before the last corner was quite difficult flat. From the first lap it was really easy. But in turn 3 it's really cool. We can get on power super early, and the banking really supports us a lot.
2015 was Lee Moll's last full European campaign, but he's back with a brand new Mercedes.
This is one of the toughest championships in the world, so with some of the best drivers in the world. So there's no better place for us to actually benchmark ourselves as drivers and also as a team. So for ERC Sport, it's a brilliant environment for them to learn. We've got a great pro driver in Phil Keane who's racing with us, so that's helping us move forward. So we have got progressively quicker. We're developing the car as we move along, and we're making progress. So hopefully, we'll be on the podium at Barcelona. That's our kind of our goal.
Chris Froggatt's got a full campaign with Sky Tempesta Racing, and he and teammate Eddie Cheever III are leading the Pro-Am points.
Super happy to be doing sprint as well as the endurance in the GT World Challenge Championships. It's different. It's been a little bit tough to adapt. My mentality has had to change. Obviously, sprint races being only an hour long, you have to. There's more of a difference to be made in the sense of you're more aggressive at the start, so you have to be more aggressive. If you've not quite had the best qualifying, you can make that difference in the first couple of laps when everyone's bunched together, and you're not as mechanically sympathetic to the car because the car's only got to last the hour. But yeah, I've been absolutely loving it, and sharing the car with my teammate Eddie has been great fun.
Good morning and welcome on this crisp September day to the circuit Zandvoort. Great to be here for the third round of the GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. Okay, the drivers have to become meteorologists. They've got to have a feeling of how long this little rain flurry may last. The front row, let's just reiterate, on slicks, poleman Michael Grenier, Jim Pla alongside Lamborghini, head of Mercedes. But the first car on wets is number 31, the black and white Audi in behind. Ryuichiro Tomita, he must be thinking, this one, I wasn't sure, but maybe it's looking good. And what is looking good is that final corner, the banked Arie Luyendyk Boch. This is fantastic. The first international race to come and play here.
Look at the rain! Look at the rain falling!
Oh, this is just doubling the excitement. The car's going around. They had the full view down the start-finish straight. Are Eddie going to dive into the pit lane to go and swap from their slick tyres onto wet? Certainly Ryuichiro Tomita doesn't look as though anybody else is going to do that. He's got the wet weather tyres. The lights are red, waiting for the lights. Oh, it's a long hold on the gantry. Everyone's bunching up. All 22 cars ready for the start. And we've got a handful of them diving into the pit lane. One of the Bentleys, the Lexus, but right now, really good start from poleman Michael Grenier, tucking in behind the driver on wet weather tyres. May go down the inside into. He's certainly having a look. Ryuichiro Tomita nearly made it. The Top Sport WRT car, Oscar Tunjo, tries to get inside the Japanese driver, but of course the Japanese driver has got grip, so he accelerates into the lead as they exit Tarzan.
And Jimmy Pla gets almost hip and shoulder there, trying to go with Tunjo. He goes round the outside, manages to hold position, but very, very difficult circumstances indeed, and those are on slicks they're the ones that are having to be pussyfooting all the way around the Hogan Hills. But look, the Audi has taken the lead on those wet weather tyres. By the time he completes the lap, he'll probably have a minimum 5 seconds advantage over second place.
Well, the one that's just astonished me is the fact that wet short Lamborghini has overtaken the one from pole position. So 163 has come up from way down the order, 10th place into second. That's the advantage of wet weather tyres. Couldn't be clearer. And also coming through, of course, we've got the Zandvoort Racing Stephen Paulette, number 26, the blue and white Audi. Easy pickings in front of them.
So pussyfoot around bits of the racetrack. The rain was certainly falling. I saw coming out of the Arie Luyendyk Boch more heavily. It doesn't look to be this part of the racetrack. This is the infield as such. but the Lamborghini on slicks, there you can see just how little grip there is. Jimmy Pla in the Mercedes, likewise on slicks, but managing it maybe marginally better than Grenier in the Lamborghini is able to do as they run down into Hans Ernst Bock.
And the car that just gone past them, Louis Michel's top Pro-Am runner, but he's come up from 17th place to overtake our jostling, fighting front row starters. There they are, the black and red Mercedes started second. Jim Pla in behind the pole man, Michael Grenier, and he's also being challenged up the inside by Lee Mole, starting from the back position on the grid. He started last, picking his way up the order. Oh, how these teams must be frustrated. But right now they'll be thinking, can the track dry out? Is it going to come back our way? But race leader with a margin of 2 and a bit seconds is Riachiro Tomito. Giacomo Altori, don't forget, up from 10th place into second. Stephen Paulette into third. Pierre-Alexandre Jean into fourth.
Yeah, more cars, or one more car, certainly coming into the pit lane to get off the slicks, get onto wet weather tyres. The 25 Audi just falling further and further back through the field, and the struggle as the rain continues to fall is just compounding the pain that those that chose to go onto slicks thinking, we'll throw the dice, we'll take the chance. Well, there must be pondering. Again, the 25 Audi barely can get the car turned in the Hungenholz-Pro.
Well, extraordinary conditions, but how soon is it coming back? There's Timo Boguslawski, did one racing lap and onto wet weather tyres. Starting in the pit lane, you'd have to presume that Josef Owega, you can see him in the background of the shot, started on wet weather tyres. He had more chance to check the rain coming down, and Owega going up the inside, another position gain. So in fact, starting from the pit was probably a good thing, and it's still Tomita by, who in fact he's slightly stretched the advantage shot, 1.39 seconds now, and look, there's sun on the track.
Yeah,
sun on the car.
Sun on the track is certainly in the middle of the circuit. The sun is shining, and shining on certainly Tomita in the Audi, pulling that small advantage over the Lamborghini.
Okay, one little fact I just want to throw into the mix here. The fastest, the race leader, his best lap, 1 minute 44.3. That's Riachiro Tomita. The pole starter, his best lap last time around, so it is drying, is Michael Grenier down in 19th place. He's fallen first to 19th. 1 minute 52.7 seconds. So you're talking about an 8.5 second difference between their best laps. Well, great Pro-Am class battling there between Lee Mole in 9th place, the ERC Sport Mercedes being hunted down with one of the golden flanks, Valentin Pierberg, 9th and 10th. And right in behind you had Nelson Ponciatici, who was the first of the drivers who came to change from slicks onto wet. He is running very well, that bright green Bentley metallic colour scheme in the background. Up in front of them we've also got the red Mercedes of Jim Pla. Sorry, it's Roman Monti and Rogalski. But now this is the change for the lead in the Pro-Am class. He's hunted him down. Blink of an eye ago, there was a 7-second margin for the red and white Ferrari from AF Corsa, but Louis Michels has been grabbed, passed, and just tossed away into the background there by Chris Froggatt.
And
great move.
Chris Froggatt has been running quickly. So slicks certainly go on to the Bentley, we can see that. So Jules Gagnon will be behind the wheel, so 5 minutes of the pit lane remain open. So if they want to stay out, they've probably got the best part of 2 more laps in which they can do it. So who's going to flick? Is Altoe going in? No, it can't. The pit lane entry comes very quickly after the... Oh, big rear tyre! Problem with the Lamborghini, the rear tyre has collapsed and it's come... So there is the problem going through, principally coming through the Arie Luyendyk curve. All the load on that left rear tyre. As a result, the tyre has just given up and delaminated, and that's a signal for everybody, but certainly big problem indeed for Giacomo Alti. Scary moment as the car just got onto pit straight, the tyre disintegrated, and the consequence is second place, whatever. But for everybody else, keep an eye on your left rear tyre. Watch the tyre having just come off that banked Arie Luyendyk box. Just the tyre temperature, the load of the tyre, just too much, and the tyre just said enough.
So Freddie Cheever the third, he hops on board, no doubt he'll be saying slicks please, just trying to see what is being offered. Yeah, slips coming out for that, but those, the early pit stoppers who came in just as the pit window opened, they opted for wet weather tyres. These are wet weather tyres, there's the carcass of one on the start-finish straight. The message from Team WRT will definitely be saying, come in now, to their race leader, Riachiro Tomita, round the banking and get all that loading, which probably in the end is what did for that wet weather tyre that exploded. You can see the carcass. So, waiting to take over, Kelvin van der Linde, his car in a sizable lead. It will be about 7 seconds to the good over Stephen Paulette. And for the car that lost the tyre, gosh, those who haven't seen it before, snaking all over the place.
I mean, it's not good to have significant, particularly that the principal part of the carcass You don't want to be hitting that, so we've got the 31 into the pits. Kelvin van der Linde will take over that car.
Best finish for Tomita and van der Linde so far this year. Second place in the opening round of 3 races at Misano. Since then, though, they haven't been on the podium. Looking good today. The 26 Audi very much in the mix. Stephen Paulette, great opening stint for him. But Simon Gachet, just marginally faster, one feels. He's going out. And is he going to get out ahead of van der Linde? No, but he's really closed that gap.
As we see the 163 finally comes in. Damage to the bodywork. They may have to do something just to get that secure. Well, what a bit of an unexpected excitement, and particularly for Giacomo Walter. Probably didn't know what had happened until the bang came from the rear of the car. He then knew what had happened.
Full course yellow.
I'm not surprised.
Well, absolutely not surprised. Got to get that tyre carcass and other bits and bobs off the start-finish straight. I'll just run down the order at the moment, and it's Kelvin van der Linde leading the race. The blue and white Audi in second place. That's Simon Gachet. Hugo Chevalier in the Bentley, just about to cross the start-finish line, is third. And then, just waiting for the next car into picture, it should be the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. Had a really, really good run. In fact, we've got Silver Cup runners in second, third, and if Axel Jeffries comes into shot, he will be fourth overall. Really good for the Silver Cup honours.
This race probably will go green again. It has gone green again, so there we are. They are deciding to leave that bit, whether that's rubber or bodywork, you can't quite see.
And also, as soon as it went green, unfortunately, Axel Jeffries wasn't paying attention. He was fourth when that flag was flown. He just dropped down to sixth.
Now the Lamborghini Ferrari side by side, and the advantage will go to Bertolini initially. Can he maintain it? Yes, he has, but not as they come into the Hugenholz turn. Once again, watch for the undercut. Well, the Ferrari goes high, 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 then tries to cut down beneath. There we go. Old school racing tactics. Andrea Bertolini does and almost got the tail of the Ferrari clipped by the Lamborghini.
Top speed measured just before we get to Tarzan, and the Bentley's fabulous through the banking, and Jules Gounon, who's now up to 10th place, heading really quick laps. He's 2.56, 3 kilometres faster. Now Nick Foster is hunting that thing called wet weather. He must be on wet weather tyres. Some of those ahead on slicks. That's why he's caught them, but he's got 17 minutes remaining in this race. But for SPS Automotive Performance, this is great hunting, and the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes in front of them getting a little bit loose out of Tarzan. This order could be swapped entirely within the space of this lap, such as Foster's progress.
Well, I think, looking at Andrea Bertolini is beginning, and you see the Mercedes directly behind. I mean, this group of cars, some on slicks, some on wet weather tyres, pretty much matched. And look at Nick Foster, goes the long way around. Wow, big move from the Australian driver to take that position away, and very, very confidently done too.
Well, look, John, just a few corners ago with a clear dry line and increasingly sunny weather. Now let's take a look at this replay. That move was the contact between Axel Jeffries in the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes down into 7th place, but Nick Foster was brooking no answer to anything and just slashed around the outside, and he's going to pick off the two in front, I reckon.
Absolutely,
before the lap is out.
That Ferrari and Lamborghini once again back side by side. Not very much they can do in turn 10, but the Lamborghini's going the long way around with a little bit of extra grip. You can see the track that the Lamborghini is on is the drier part of the track, so the slick tyre is beginning to come back to the favour of the Lamborghini. And likewise, Nick Foster on slick tyres, I'm assuming. Hard to tell because these 4 cars, some on slick, some on wet, but Foster up the inside of Bertolini takes the position away, but on the damp part of the track needs to watch the exit, gets cleanly through. Now he can pick up as they come through the Hugenholz, and so good run for Nick Foster.
I'm fairly sure he's on wet weather tyres. Look, he's hunting out any patch of wet. He almost dives into the pit lane. We saw that last time around, jinks around that tyre carcass and bits and bobs. Won't be able to make the move down into turn 1, but I thought he'd pick off all 3 of them. He picked off 2. Great performance from Nick Foster. Takes the lead in Pro-Am.
So up the inside of the Bentley tries to go, but the traction off the corner. There he goes. He's got the grip now, but he's going to be on the outside as he comes down into Hans Ernst Bock. But he's got clear air just between himself and the Mercedes.
And all the cars get the braking done. Benjamin Ites, the meat in the sandwich, if you will, he does it well enough to stay out of the way. But good move there from Hugo Chevalier. And still trying to make progress up the front. Still great battle between Nick Foster and Axel Jeffries. Foster got past very easily. We saw them nearly touch, and they've got the Sky Tempesta Racing Pro-Am 2nd place runner. 7th place overall for Eddie Cheever Jr. in behind the fastest driver on the circuit. Jules Gounon is up to 8th. He can see 3 cars ahead. I reckon he's going to pass all 3 of them.
Well, he's caught up. Same old story. You catch him, but where are you going to find a way past them? Because Ferrari has also got good straight line speed. We know that Gugno has got the quickest car in a straight line here at this moment.
It's still cold here at Zandvoort. The sun is shining, but this track super difficult. In a straight line, though, we know how good the Bentley is, and Gugno now right almost alongside the Ferrari of Eddie Cheever Jr. that's fighting so hard with Nick Foster. I think we're going to have a change of place. Side-by-side racing, Zandvoort is really giving it up today. So Hans Ernst Bock, very tight indeed, but Gugno, he's got to bide his time. He's got to be patient, John.
He has to be patient, but it's frustrating because he knows his car has got the capacity to run quicker than two cars directly ahead of him. But the difficulty he has, he can't take the risk to go offline and lose traction, lose grip, and potentially lose position.
And one thing one person we've scarcely talked about since he took over from Riachiro Tomito is Kelvin van der Linde. 27 seconds to the good in that number 31 Audi. Everybody else is enjoying battling left, right and centre, but the South African Kelvin van der Linde, he'll take quiet. But let's take a look at the speed, top speed on the banking. It's always been a strong spot for the Bentleys, but now Eddie Cheever Jr. has got it to work, and Phil Keane, who's rattling in some second fastest lap in the race, coming up from the back for ERC Sport. He's up into 12th place.
Now watch the Bentley trying to make the undercut. There we go. Almost a mirror of what we saw Andrea Bertolini do earlier. This time the Bentley not sufficiently far up, trying to stick the nose up the inside of Eddie Cheever Jr., who has said, no way, Jules Gugno, you're going to make that move at me at this part of the racetrack. Even in spite of the straight line speed advantage that the Bentley has, it hasn't got quite enough at the point where it's important to get into this battle that's going on. The Mercedes Ferrari almost side by side for an entire lap.
And the Ferrari going through, so that is...
No, it's not. Contact. Is there going to be a Mercedes in trouble? Well, I'll tell you what, Nick Foster got away with that one. Up the inside now of Eddie Cheever. And this time got clear. But look at Gugno. He's got the run, but he's in the wrong part of the racetrack to make it stick.
I like it 3x3, but it doesn't work when you go through the twisters of Rob Slottermack, Bock. But you have to give Gugno every mark for trying. Eddie Cheever Jr. driving a fantastic race. But again, these cars have different attributes on their different tyres, and struggling now on his wets, but being absolutely stern is Nick Foster, still leading the Pro-Am class by what? Nothing of a second. I think that's official.
And they're being caught up, they're being caught.
Here comes the Lexus.
Indeed, so it's going to be a four-way battle for what is going to be the battle for the sixth place. So finally Gugno has made a move, but he got past the Ferrari, but can he make it past the Mercedes on the exit? He's on the drier part of the racetrack. Yes, he has. Cheever's going to try and sweep through as well and take that position away from Nick Foster, but not able to do it. But the principle, Gugno's overrun in the contact. How did they avoid one another? Four cars into the space of one will not work. These four drivers, well, they've made it work.
Well, they absolutely have, and Jules Gugno had to try everything, and not including quite enough braking was the only way he could get past Hans Ernst Bock. But it looks though the Lexus Thomas Neubauer, not only has he caught them, I thought in the space of two corners you're going to catch all three of them and pass them, but right now slingshotting around Nick Foster goes Eddie Cheever the third, the lights flashing from Thomas Neubauer in the background of the Lexus. But look at the screen. I mean, you better not to put your wipers on because it'll become more smeared as Eddie Cheever Jr., what can I say, comes into Masters corner, and then the run, the curve. But it's Neubauer, the third of these three cars, who I'm assuming has been in slick tires, looks to go up the inside, gets up alongside the Ferrari on the entry. Ferrari now on the outside. Eddie Cheever, where's the Lexus on the inside? Now alongside Nick Foster, but Ferrari, I mean, it's like Dodgem cars at Portrush. Could not be closer. Fantastic battle for sixth place. So Gugnon's now into sixth. Sorry, it's for seventh place. Nick Foster hanging on, but only just from Eddie Cheever. But Thomas Neubauer has finally made the move stick. Eddie Cheever tries to find the track off the track at the exit of Hans Ernst Bock. Now they go into the corner before the most exciting one in the circuit. Now it's this new one, the banked one, the Arie Luyendyk Bock, and Eddie Cheever trying to get a toe out of Neubauer's Lexus as they go out of the corner, over that little rise, down onto the start-finish straight. But now some breathing space at last for Nick Foster.
Yes, that little battle going on between the Ferrari and the Lexus has given Foster that momentary gap where he was able to pull maybe half a second, just over half a second. Gugno, by the way, doing a 1:40.80. That looks to me to be the fastest lap of the race to date. So once he's gotten clear, the back of the Lexus snapped out just before we got into Hogan-Holtz. Goes way, way high. Eddie Cheever thinks he can cut through and make that undercut. That seems to be a popular way of exiting out of Hugenholz, and it's worked successfully.
Well, you know, I think the greatest success of the modification to welcome a Grand Prix to the circuit at Zandvoort, actually I really enjoy the Hugenholz box. I love the side of the corners, the bank corner at the Arie Luijendijk box, but the fact it provides more lines, particularly in a wet dry circuit at the Hugenholz box hairpin, makes it really exciting indeed.
No, just drives down the inside, clean as you like, no problem. He's got all the grip and traction now that those slick tyres are holding their temperature regardless of going over slightly damp patches. Now Cheever tries to do the same, and he's been followed through by Mattea Drudi, who also was one of the quickest cars on the circuit. Drudi almost trying to make it 3 wide, down the run, down into Hans Ernst. So can he get a stop? But he's on the wrong part of the racetrack. He might get one position. He's got the Mercedes. Nick Foster had to concede now. Eddie Cheever is going to be the subject. It'll not happen before they get out of Arie Luijendijk box, but it'll be a possibility only, going down into Tarzan. Gap probably at this stage too much for Drudi to do much about the Ferrari.
Let's look at the top speed on the banking, John. Is it still the Bentleys at the top? Has the Lexus moved there? It is still the Bentleys. 187 plays 186. Second place plays fifth place. There is an advantage. They've worked very well.
Yes, the car's had a strength, and Jules Gagnon certainly, once he was in clear air, is in clear air now. But it's this car, the 31 Audi, Kelvin van der Linde.
And here comes the checkered flag for South Africa racer Kelvin van der Linde. Past a bit of debris left there by the car that had been chasing them. And rear Chira Tamita, yes, he's landed. That first European win. You can hear the delight, John.
Absolutely, and I mean a well-constructed victory by the 31 Audi. So, good decision at the start to start on those wet weather tyres. Let the car be handed then over to Kelvin van der Linde on slicks. And Kelvin van der Linde just used his opportunities, maxed them out in every particular sense.
Well, what an exciting race. But at the end, 30 seconds to good. They nailed every single lap of that race. All 34. Ria Chiritamita started on the wet tyres. He braved it out at the opening stint of the race. Kelvin van der Linde finished it off in absolute style. But for Bentley, they'll be delighted with second and fifth places. Pierre Alexandre, Jean and Hugo Chevalier second to win the Silver Cup class. And you look down to Pro-Am honours, going in the end to Chris Froggatt and Eddie Cheever by, just over a second. But what a charge from ERC Sports Mercedes. Lee Mole and then Phil Keane coming strong at the end. Well, let's go down and hear from our winning crew, started by Riachiro Tamita and Kelvin van der Linde.
The risk certainly paid off, didn't it? You started the race there. It was a risk starting on the wets, but certainly as that rain fell, you must have been thanking your lucky stars.
Yeah, exactly. In the first of all, and thanks a lot and for our team and Kelvin. They trust me and my decision. And first lap and start and at first corner, I can be confident in my decision. It's a correct way. And after, and the car is quite nice and it seems to be a bit difficult, but still in every way a good way. Really happy day for me.
Congratulations to you and Kelvin. Of course, the gap there at the end, you guys were simply unbeatable.
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, he pretty much said it. He made the call for the wets this morning, or the start of the race. So, kudos to him. And then the car has obviously been a dream the whole year. And it's always difficult, those races, because you have everything to lose. It's tricky conditions. And I just really had to focus. Even though it looked easy out there, it really wasn't. We really had to bring it home. Good points for the championship, both in overall and sprint. So, yeah, good job by the boys today, honestly.
Congratulations. Well done, boys.
Thanks so much.
And let's take a look at the overall championship. It's Kelvin van der Linde, 88 points now across the board. Charles Weerts, Dries van Tor, 81.5. And then Raffaele Marcello, who's away this weekend. Timo Bogoslawski, no big points for them this weekend. The real winner was Kelvin van der Linde there. That victory today propelling him to the top of the overall order. So really, really great job. Supreme job by the South African.
I mean, an emphatic victory for the 31 Audi, Kelvin van der Linde.
Great result for Hugo Chevalier and Pierre-Alexandre Jean and the CMR Bentley team. They'll be delighted with that. But let's focus on Sky Tempesta Racing. Eddie Cheever brought it home. He had to fight so hard, but Chris Froggatt, great opening stint and victory in the Pro-Am class. 9th overall. They'll be very pleased with that run. The sun is shining at Zandvoort. The first race was an absolute cracker on a wet, dry circuit, but now it's almost completely dry. 22 cars coming out to play. and I cannot wait. That previous race was brilliant. High cloud, but look, track temperature gradually getting warmer. 15 degrees, air temperature 16. It is awesome. It's not summer. Remember, there is that big difference, but a dry circuit will give us a very, very different race. Fewer variables, John Watson, but I still think this track with its 2 new bank corners, here's one of them at Hugenholzbocht, the other at Arie Luijendijk-Bocht, has got plenty to offer.
Well, there is the Arie Luijendijk-Bocht. That's the bank corner, and the more I see it, the more I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And certainly watching the first race this morning in very much more difficult conditions, how people tackled it was basically stick to the driest part of the corner. But now with the racetrack totally dry, there's a lot of opportunities there. We see, well, this is probably the quickest lap we're going to see of the day. The speed the Tracer's going around the lap. Oh, it's broken the lap record, and it's come off the Arie Luijendijk bar at over 200 miles an hour.
A very tidy exit, and one of the big features this weekend, we'll show you the from time to time the fastest speeds on the exit of the Arie Luijendijk-Bocht. Big bragging rights if you're the fastest of all. You claim you have the largest body parts, and then down towards the first corner we've got the speed trap, and then we've also got a graphic yet to see it has been who breaks the latest into Tarzan, but it's normally the one in the gravel trap.
Because we had qualifying in mixed conditions, wet conditions, the only gauge we have got as to how this track is going to perform, what lap time we're going to expect, is what we saw from Jules Gounon in the Bentley, who was quickest overall. He did a 1 minute 37.1. And that was on a track that was, I would say, 85 to 90% dry. Expect to see that exceeded in this second race this afternoon.
Absolutely so. And if you're a fan of Lamborghinis, you're not seeing double. There are 2 Lamborghinis, both Lamborghinis from Emil Frey Racing on the front row. And there's quite a story. The number 14 Norbert Siedler driven car, that was thrown into the gravel trap in the first qualifying session, had to be retrieved, came back to the pits and was in still good enough nick to go out on that tricky conditions yesterday evening and qualify on pole position. Teammate Albert Costa alongside, and Costa's car finished very well in the first race today after the early problems, in 4th place overall. But let's go down to the grid, talk of Albert Costa. Let's talk to Albert Costa down on the grid.
Hello. Albert, you're in fantastic spirits. This is because you're on the front row of the grid, I assume, and things have got to go better than they did in that previous race with the tyre blowout that you had.
Yeah, the last races I've been a bit unlucky, also by mistakes. Today we start first front row of the year, so looking forward to do good. Unfortunately or lucky, the first driver is my teammate, so I will try to be very clean, have a nice fight. But of course I want to win, but this circuit is very hard to overtake, so we will see what I can do. I think a podium, it's the target. If I can win, of course I will go for it, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, of course, like you say, you've got to have a clean race, but the conditions are slightly easier than they were this morning.
Yeah, this morning were tricky. We did a nice choice for the tires, but unfortunately we got a tire explosion when we were running P2. But we come back to P4, so happy with it. We need to always look for the positive things. And as I said, now we are here, new race, new targets, and we go for it.
Have a great race. Thank you, Albert.
Thank you.
What I think is remarkable in that, John, is that they could finish 4th having to do an entire lap with 1 tyre missing from the car. But that was the advantage the handful of drivers who started on wet weather tyres for that first race had. They built the advantage, but it so easily could have gone right for them. But still 4th after all of that. Extraordinary.
They had to do an entire lap with the right rear of the car just running on the rim. Just interesting listening to Albert Costa. If I think back to Nürburgring 6 hours, when Albert was interviewed on the grid, front row of the grid, he was on the second row of the grid behind the pole position Porsche. Everything was going to be calm, cool into turn 1. And what happened? The Porsche and the Lamborghini got together. Now it was adjudged to be a racing incident. But Albert has a habit of saying everything's going to be cool going into turn 1. Let's see what Albert does this time, because they're all coming off the banking. It's a short run from that corner down to turn 1. Lots can happen.
Right, we see some smiling face on the grid, one Christopher Haase. But let's go down and see Nelson Panciatici.
Nelson, this morning the car seemed to be super in terms of performance and pace. You really put in a fantastic battle.
Yeah, this morning we were really quick. Unfortunately, we didn't take the good choice of tires, but now we start P5, so we have something to do. I hope we will come back on the podium.
Well, certainly looking here, you're in a good position for the start. It's a busy grid ahead of you, getting down into that first turn. It's not a particularly long distance either.
No, it's not a long distance, but I hope we'll have a good start and we'll keep this position, and then during pit stop gain few position, and we'll see.
And of course, in the banking here, Bentley seems to be quickest.
Yeah, we are really quick on the banking and in the straight. I think it's a good circuit for our car, so I hope we're going to be good.
Thank you. Have a good race.
Thank you.
Well, Gilles Gounon, who's sitting on board behind him, talking across to Nelson Poncetici, he was super fast at the end of the race, got the fastest lap, got a little bit of traffic, held him up for a while, had to fight his way through, but really strong. Another car that showed great speed, but not throughout the race, was the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes. And Felipe Fraga on board this weekend alongside Timo Bogoslawski should be taking this first half of the race. And that first corner, it focuses all their mind down into Tarzan, John.
Yeah, they finished 6th in the first race. I mean, it was such a mix and match. People chose to start on slicks on the front row of the grid. Courageous decision. Those that started on wets, the first car on the second row of the grid was the winner. Belgian Audi Club with Kelvin van der Linde did a stunning job, finished 30 seconds ahead of the field. His fastest race lap was about 3 and a bit seconds slower than Gilles Gounon's fastest race lap. But because he'd built up such an advantage, he could just cruise to the flag.
Well, real mix of drivers, but let's go down. Sansalot Racing near the front. Christopher Haas will start the car, but his teammate Arthur Rougier, a driver, the only driver who fell. Let's see what he's got to say.
Archer, looking ahead of you, you've got the Lamborghini front row, and then of course the two Audis here.
Yeah, it's a good position to start, P4. We had a decent quali. We're going to try to do better than race 1. Hopefully this one will be completely dry, so no surprise with that, because the race 1 was wrong strategy, so really disappointing about race 1, the result. But yeah, it's everything to play for again, so looking forward to it.
Looking at the weather, the wind's turned completely. It feels like the weather system we had this morning is moving back in.
Yeah, it's completely different. Hopefully it will stay dry, as I said, so I don't know, finger crossed that we have a fair race, like in terms of conditions, and we just do our race.
And how do you find the new style of the circuit here with the banking?
It's the first time for me in Zandvoort here, so I don't know before how it was, but for sure it's really fun. Nice last corner is really fun. Flat, easy flat and dry, but flat also on wet. This is quite tricky, but it's fun also. And also turn 3. It's a lot of banking, really special to take, but let's say a lot of fun around this track. Like it.
And how is it to overtake throughout those banking areas?
I think it's pretty hard to overtake. Last year we saw like nearly no overtakes in the race. Let's see this year with the banking if it's a little bit different. Let's see. We're going to try to move forward a little bit before it's good, but podium is just ahead, so let's try it.
It's all in sights. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that was Arthur Rougier, the one car that didn't finish the first race today, but certainly a cool head on board. Christopher Haas starting that from 4th on the grid, and Sansalot having such a strong season. Championship leaders coming here, Charles Weerts and Dries van Tor. Be flipped around, be Dries starting this race, but they ended up outside the point in that first race. It just did not go right for the 32, did it, John?
No, it's not. It was one of those races where nothing ever seemed to come to the 32 Audi. I would imagine they will expect much greater things, but starting back in the 4th row of the grid, it's, to get all the way to the front, and the cars at the front are very closely matched. So all the skill that Dries van Tor has got, we've seen it illustrated on many, many occasions, is going to have to be through the 4 from the minute the lights go out.
It certainly is, and we heard Arthur Rougier pointing out that Zandvoort is very easy to run close to each other, but very hard to find an overtaking space. Maybe we will see some provided by the 2 new bank corners, but certainly in the first race, when the track was greasy, there was more scope.
Absolutely, I was just going to say that particularly, and it was interesting because it was the Hugenholz hairpin bend, where it allowed drivers, if there was 2 or 3 cars very close together, to choose a different option, particularly on the undercut coming out of the corner, and get a run, getting better traction, more bite up the hill. Whether that'll occur in these dry conditions, I don't know. But what I'm going to be excited about is to see just how close cars can get as they come through the Arie Luijendijk walk, that bank corner, which is flat out. If they can get cars to go side by side, one on top of the other, literally, that will be a spectacle, I'll tell you, worth watching.
Absolutely so, and the car starting fifth. The Bentley's super quick. We saw them take second and fifth in the first race, but the better place for them on this grid is Jules Gounon. We know how quick they are through that final corner and quick down the start-finish straight. So they at least have a bullet in the gun for attacking into Tarzan.
They're just going to say Albert Costa's up and away. You can screaming. You can hear the old Lambo V10 up almost onto the rev limiter.
So,
that was just in the run down into turn one.
All Lamborghini front row, Norbert Siedler, Albert Costa. Which one will lead either of them or neither of them into Tarzan? We will see, because Kelvin van der Linde, Christopher Haas, row 2, packed out by Audis.
Albert Costa will, because it's just in his nature. Believe me, he is pumped so much before the lights go out that he will be the guy. If he's not first into it, he'll be every possibility the first out.
Nick Foster starting 10th. He had a brilliant run in the second half of the first race on wet weather tyres, was in the thick of the battle until the very end. But Eddie Cheever's car, Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari, that won the Pro-Am class. At the death, though, he had the ERC Sport Mercedes coming, which is started last in the first race, and it got onto his tail within a second. That will be starting last again. But Phil Keane at the wheel in the first half of this race. But plenty of runners down the back who could or should be further up, including, of course, the Thomas Neubauer-driven Lexus. Aurelian Panis shares that, but this order will be shuffled. But certainly for the Lamborghinis, holding down those first two positions on the grid, they'll be getting towards that final bank corner soon. They'll be needing to get into that 2x2 formation. They've got to really focus on the start, because the 163 runner, which starts second in the hands of Albert Costa, was challenging for the lead, had that blowout, did a whole lap on 3 wheels effectively, and still came through to fourth. The sister car that started on pole worked his way backwards down the order. Starting on slicks was not the right choice. Now it's dry conditions everywhere. It's a much more even playing field, and for Lamborghini, they can calm right down. They've got that front row.
A lot to be made up for from, in some cases, a disappointing race one. For others, an outstanding race one. So 2 Lamborghinis locking out the front row of the grid, and then directly behind Kelvin van der Linde, who actually, Kelvin van der Linde has been, I think, outstanding all through this season, and now with everybody on dry weather slick tyres, there's no gain or loss to any of the front row of the
start of any race is super tense, but there's something rather special. Here come the cars to the penultimate corner. They're going to be sweeping side by side, 2x2 formation through the newly banked Arie Luyendyk Bocht. Tarzan is a difficult corner at the best of times. That's the one at the end of the main straight. Which of those Lamborghinis is going to be in front? 163 looking very busy on the outside the front row. That's Albert Costa. You're quite right, John. The body language is all there. They're canted right over. This is fabulous.
But look how much the bank. There's going to be a 20-degree banking. And you only notice it when you see the cars at this pace all together. Sometimes the camera tends to flatten out the degree of angle of the banking, but that is a considerable banking.
Absolutely is, and seeing them 2x2 really emphasise how much the lower car is, how much lower it sits. Right, we had a long hold on the lights. This time it looks like it's going to be a fast one. The safety car pulls off all 22 cars around that final corner. Lights are still being held on red. Now it's green. Where's the big gain going to be? Down the middle of the grid, there's lots of overtaking by the look of things, but the first 4 cars seem even. But Albert Costa, will he sweep around the outside, or has Norbert Siedler done enough? He's certainly done enough, and the Audi trying to go up the inside. Kelvin van der Linde, winner of the first race, goes into second, and it's Christopher Haas, the cool head. That was the only car that retired in race 1. Somehow everyone has managed to avoid him. He's getting going. A tap on the exit of Tarzan.
So look, Gounon trying to take a variable line round Hills. How he comes out of it, we wait to see. So up there, Felipe Fraga, that's the view from the behind of the Kelvin van der Linde. So through the realm of Schlottemacher curves. But it's Lamborghini, Audi, Lamborghini, Mercedes, Bentley. Gounon made that pass, got it out of the Huguenots.
Yeah, well, of course, with the Christopher Haas going around, that's where he gained the position early on. The 88 car in the Mercedes really made a move forward from 6th on the grid. Felipe Fraga gaining ground, and another driver gaining ground is Phil Keane at the back for ERC Sport. But Kelvin van der Linde, winner in the first race, has already gained that position to put his Audi into second. But the pole starter, Norbert Siedler, staying out front.
Dries van Thor's also made a little bit of progress, got up behind the Bentley, so that's a good start for that particular 32 Audi down the hill. Jules Gounon on board the Bentley.
Yeah, Jules Gounon started 5th, remains in 5th place, because he would have gained a place for Christopher Haas, having dropped around spun around out of Tarzan at the first time of asking, but the ACA ASP Mercedes gained that position to go up into fourth. Gougnot stays fifth, but his real advantage is through this final bank corner onto the start-finish straight. Already as he goes into the bank corner, he was catching the ACA ASP Mercedes ahead of them. We do have 2x2. One of the Bentleys running, the French one, running high, and there comes the advantage the Bentley had in the straight line. A bit of a block move there from Felipe Fraga. Just the one, though, John.
Yeah, it was, but it was pretty blatant the way. It was a rather late one. Gougnot was committed to going down the outside into turn one. That was cut off, as I say, rather abruptly by Felipe Fraga. Gougnot, look, again, runs up high now to try and get the undercut to come off the Hugenholz head, but he's not close enough to the Mercedes. Fraga had a good exit himself, so status quo as they go up through the turns, up into the dunes, the sand dunes of Zandvoort.
And just noticing there, Fraga just clipping a curb, but it's still puffing up little specks of moisture from the overnight rain. But certainly that lovely long run out of the Hugenholz Bock, where you carry your speed all the way, all that momentum through Shea Black and then eventually down to Masters Bock. That's the first time. But let's take a look at the start. Very tidy at the front from the two Lamborghinis. A little bit of place changing down the middle order, but look for a move from the black Audi coming up the inside into second place. Christopher Haas in third in the yellow and white Santaloc Racing Audi, already touching the nose of Jules Gougnot.
Yes.
I thought that was what it would be. So evasive action from behind one of the Attempto Audis, really losing ground big time. Now, riding on board with Eddie Cheever the third. Oh, very busy. Where's the space? But he's trying to thread the eye of a needle. Eventually has to back off behind Rick Breukers and try and tuck up the inside. Manages to pull that move very nicely indeed into Tarzan.
Where do you go? Where do you go? There's no space.
Well,
and all of a sudden you see these 25 Audi facing you, not actually going the right direction.
And at that point, Eddie Cheever must have thought, I've just pulled off a move, well done me, into Tarzan, coming out of Tarzan all plain, and then suddenly this yellow and white Audi we see in the middle of our shot, you'll suddenly see the tail come round, so it does. Good avoidance by Felipe Fraga in the blue and white ACA ASP Mercedes, and going the other side of the spinning Audi was Gougnot.
Good avoidance by the remainder of the field, because there's another 15 cars behind Christopher Haas who had to go one way, go the other way. Somehow they all managed theirs. They contact, unintentional, but that's what happens. Opening lap, compacted field into turn one.
Well, Gougnot couldn't make that Bentley any smaller as he was up the inside as he went into the second part of Tarzan. Now it's nose to tail. And just to let you know, Nick Foster leading the Pro-Am class in 8th overall. Eddie Cheever just half a second behind him. Also running in Pro-Am, top silver runner back in 10th place, Rick Breukers. So these Pro-Am drivers are really starring. Just remember the names: Nick Foster, Eddie Cheever the third. Their season's getting better and better. Nick just joining the championship this weekend. Drive along Valentin Peerberg for the SPS Automotive Performance Team. It's the Mercedes with the gold flanks, very extravagant looking. But really, in terms of extravagance, why not put a Lamborghini at the front of the field? Norbert Siedler leading by 0.7 of a second.
And he also quickest car in the field as we go on to lap 4. So Norbert Siedler using all the benefits of leading and having a clear vision of where he wants to place the Lamborghini. So 1 minute 36.2, which is the best part of a second quicker than we saw at the end of race 1, when Jules Gougnot set the fastest race by at that point a considerable margin.
So in the Silver Cup class, it's Rick Breukers 10th overall ahead of Simon Gachet, Axel Jeffries in the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes next in line, and then Thomas Neubauer 4th in the Silver Cup class. But it's getting busier and busier at the front. That car, the 31 Audi that won the first race in those mixed conditions, not able to get away.
Kelvin
Kelvin
had to go defensive going into turn 1 because Albert Costa got the run. Now Costa's dropped down low trying to get the run, but the high line, if you can make it work, is probably the quicker. But look at Felipe Fraga. While Costa's trying to get past the Audi, Fraga's all over the back of the Lamborghini.
Yeah, this is a hint of a chance. Jules Gougnot will be in there as well. He's running 5th in the Bentley. This is all really good news for the Austrian race leader, Norbert Siedler. He should be able to stretch his advantage. It's gone out from 0.7 of a second to just 1.039 seconds to the good for Norbert Siedler. So don't forget, this car, the number 14 Lamborghini, led the first race, but didn't clinch it because it started on slick tyres and fell way down the order from pole. This time he's trying to put it right.
So Kelvin van der Linde has dropped back fractionally from the lead Lamborghini, but he's got all his focus behind him to try and keep Albert Costa and keep him at bay. And likewise, Albert Costa's got Felipe Fraga, who seemingly has got a sufficient, well, you might call it a gap of a quarter of a second between himself and the 5th place Bentley of Jules Gougnot. that was a battle a couple of laps ago that looked like it was going to be a little bit more than just a battle. It was going to get into fisticuffs, really.
Yeah, well now, in fact, Gounion's got plenty of company from behind. Attempto Racing's Matthias Drudy in 6th. Dries van Tor going better and better, erstwhile championship leader. And then the top of the Pro-Am cars, 8th overall, Nick Foster. But the first 7 cars getting away. Look at them down the start-finish straight, nose to tail. And only about half a second gap back. And then the Mercedes being challenged just at the background of the shot, because certainly Nick Foster had company.
I mean, how close can you get to the back of an Audi and not make contact? So watch again as we come up to the little right kink before we go into Hugenholz. Where is the Audi going to go? Dips in early, runs high, then comes back down. And then the 4 or 5 cars remaining are all... They're trying to think forward as to where the cars that are ahead of me are going to place themselves. What can I do to try and gain some benefit out of that?
Yeah, certainly looking at the Hugenholz block, John, it's got more options for cornering lines than it's ever had before it was banked. And you'd think some of the cars have actually made a mistake, but they're just taking that wider line, and it does provide opportunity. The time will come.
Interestingly, Matthias Drudy has actually taken 6th place away from Dries van Tor. Van Tor was in 6th place, but Drudy has gotten ahead of him. So it's not going well at all this weekend for the 32 Audi, and other Audis are outperforming what would normally be considered to be the star car of that whole range.
No, exactly so. And now are we about to have a place change?
Well,
because Dries van Tor wants to get by, but Matthias Drudy, not the sort of driver who really fancies letting anyone pass.
Well, Drudy actually got ahead of Dries van Tor. We didn't see it on camera, but he was actually got ahead of Dries van Tor. Now Van Tor trying to get back and take that 6th place back from the Attempto Racing Audi.
What he really needs, what Dries van Tor needs, is for the Bentley to be caught, but the Bentley's strongest point is onto the start-finish straight, so it pulls clear of Drudy. He wants Drudy to be fighting.
Let's have a look and see who's laid in the brakes.
On the brakes into turn 1. Could it be the Lamborghini diving in? It's Albert Costa at the moment. And Matthias Drudy, well, that's why Drudy's advanced so far. And Axel Jeffries running down the order, the number 19 Mercedes in 12th overall, and running well in the Silver Cup class, but the Zimbabwean getting right up there on the brake things.
It's interesting that Kelvin van der Linde, who's being pursued by Costa, is actually slightly earlier on the brakes than the pursuing Costa is. So that's the benchmark. Albert Costa is the benchmark, as you see the cars up through the dunes, down through Schweveling. Lovely, lovely corner. Gives the car a real, suspension especially, a hard time. There are bumps in the corner which can slightly unsettle the car, but it's a swarm of bodies with a mother bee called a Bentley in the middle of them.
And the Mercedes just in front of that in 4th place overall for Felipe Fraga, the 2 cars that make the greatest rumble. But the Audis and the Lamborghinis just look so nimble in comparison. And at any point you look at the cars around the circuit at Zandvoort, they are being worked super hard. Those gradient changes just really make them look so dynamic. But the dynamism that Dries van Tor, the championship leader when we came here, wants to find is overtaking. He's not managing to do it at the moment.
Top 12 cars are all running in the 1 minute 36 seconds per lap. No wonder they're struggling to overtake, because they're all virtually lapping at identical pace. There's the speeds again. Top speed and banking we're seeing for Jean Goudia, 198 kilometers per hour, significantly up than what we saw this morning when it was in the middle of 185s. Not surprisingly, they're quicker off that final sort of Hans Ernst chicane all the way down through Kumho and then into the sort of big uplifted speed back into the Hugenholz.
Well, they're all slightly tripping themselves up at the front as they fight for track position. The new fastest lap just been put in by the car in 21st position out of 22 places. That's Christopher Haase, the driver who was spun out of 4th place on the opening lap, the opening corner at Tarzan. He's in clear air, but in fact he's now catching Roman Montes and pick off the top sport WRT Mercedes in short order, and then not too far up the track, Benjamin Hites. But for Haase and his teammate Arthur Rougier, huge disappointment here. The speed is in the car, but when you're facing the wrong way in the middle of traffic, John, as you pointed out, with about another 15 cars to go, all you've got to do is breathe in.
I mean, there's one car on the inside. Haas was just in the middle of the racetrack. When you're exiting the corner, you're beginning to lock down in the car. So it was an unintentional contact. Of course, one could lift off, or the other could have lifted off, but that isn't the nature of motor racing. So consequently, Christopher Haase, innocent party in his mind, was taken out, spun around, but his fastest lap is the only driver to get into the 1 minute 35 seconds per lap, and that is about a tenth and a half quicker than the next fastest lap. He's making pace, but he is ultimately going to be stalled out behind Romain Monti in the TalkSport WRT Mercedes.
Looking backwards from Felipe Fraga's Mercedes, being caught as it exits the final corner, because we know that Gugnon on the Bentley is very, very quick in the straight line, but we saw him being rebuffed a half dozen laps ago when Felipe Fraga, the Brazilian, just said, no, you're not coming up the inside, moved across, blocked the move. So Jules Gugnon not as quick around the rest of the lap, but down this main straight, super fast. He's got to find his moment, but he's got about another, well, they've all got 13 minutes until the pit window opens, and I think for some who may be at the back of the pack, they might be going, I'll come in early.
So you see, I mean, totally unusual lines for a bank corner. So they come in shallow and then run up the banking and then get the best of the exit that they can. The gold and grey Nick Foster, the khaki and gold, or whatever the combination of colours is.
It looks gold to everyone because he's a Pro-Am leader by 1.3 seconds from Eddie Cheever. Their battle from the first race being rejoined, but the upper hand to the SPS Automotive team, and he's not that far off the tail of Dries Van Tor et al. That's 7th place up to first, almost nose to tail. There's Eddie Cheever, 2nd place in the Pro-Am class, being chased by Rick Breukers, a 4th entry this weekend. Rick Breukers from Belgian Audi Club Team WRT. Rick Breukers sharing that with Rolfin Eichen, but only 10th at the moment.
Surprisingly, the Lexus Thomas Neubar all the way down in 15th place. Now that's a car we know has got great natural speed, got a super engine, it's got a very good chassis, but it's embedded in a group of cars. You can't find a way past Yusuf Pakaka. In the Mercedes, there's just no space to get the momentum, to build the speed, to make the move.
Yeah, well, started 16th, so you could say he's gained a position, but of course that was Christopher Haas was passed on the exit of the first corner, so in turn, pure racing still hasn't happened, but this is pure racing, nose to tail between the first three. Kelvin van der Linde so close, as he was being challenged by Albert Costa, has to block it, but he's getting closer and closer to Norbert Seidler leading the race.
Yes, well, the top three have all concertinaed. There was a reasonably comfortable gap initially between first and second. There was a battle between second and third, but now Kelvin van der Linde's found the pace. We're just trying to see the last lap of Norbert Seidler. Well, yes, Norbert Seidler. It's only a 10th of a second down. Somewhere Seidler has lost the best part of a second a lap to second place Kelvin van der Linde, and then turned Albert Costa is trying to force these two cars ahead of him to make it a three-way battle, which is just about where we are now.
So in other words, Norbert Seidler is not the quickest driver in the race. He's the leader, but his advantage has come down because his other two have been fighting. Kelvin van der Linde in the black 31 Audi, but certainly Albert Costa, ever since he was passed for second place on the opening lap, has been trying to get it back. But I think Seidler may be on borrowed time at the front of this field, but the big problem for the driver in second place, Kelvin van der Linde, if he makes a move and doesn't manage to pull it off, he'll be back in third place before he can blink.
He's not going to make a move unless he gets the run. He needs to get a run, for example, coming into this, the penultimate corner, then into the bank corner. He needs to be really on the tail of the lead Lamborghini, and he isn't close enough. Albert Costa is actually closer to the back of the Audi than the Audi is to the lead Lamborghini. Now Kelvin van der Linde is under threat from Albert Costa. Watch for a late move, or certainly a block. So Costa tries to go down the inside, tries to force it. Contact between the Audi and the Mercedes. Audi and the Lamborghini, not the Mercedes. Well, wow, you can't get any closer than that without having the contact occurred. Kelvin van der Linde did a great job to keep control and didn't allow Costa to gain the ground. But look behind, the Mercedes now all over the back of Costa as they go over into the Rolf Rademacher curve.
So the Mercedes, Felipe Fraga coming in to help, lend a helping hand to Kelvin van der Linde, because if he can put pressure on Costa, is there any damage? That's a sort of little contact down into Tarzan that just doesn't help the front end shaping your car. Fraga really on a move now, trying to unsettle as the race leader. Norbert Seidler, I said it's borrowed time for him, but he's still borrowing that time. He's still in front, but he just doesn't have the traction now.
Well, again, Kelvin van der Linde's looking one way and the other, and of course the minute he does that, Costa follows the other line. Then you've got Fraga behind, these three battling for the lead. But Norbert Seidler, under great pressure, has yet to show a bad reaction to the pressure. In other words, he hasn't actually given the opportunity to van der Linde and the Audi to make that pass possible. This car, the Mercedes, ultimately of the four, is the one that I think is going to be the most exciting, because Felipe Fraga, he's a racer and he knows he's got scope with the Mercedes going through this long bank turn. It was certainly Albert Costa was the quickest the previous lap, almost got a pass on the Audi into turn 1.
And Jules Gounon trying to get the toe off the ASP Mercedes. Another little half-hearted dive up the inside, or looking to the inside of race leader Norbert Siedler. But Kelvin van der Linde ducks back into second place. But we talked yesterday about how Felipe Fraga's used to bank corners on to start finish straight. He's Brazilian. He races at Interlagos.
He does. And just talking about Interlagos, it rains there a lot as well. But there are big clouds rolling. They're coming there. You can see them. And whether they're going to roll over the circuit, whether they're carrying any precipitation, don't know. Right now, dry sky, dry track, bluish sky. But 43 minutes remaining, anything could happen.
With these cars being so close, we've got to see if they go into the pits in this order. Will they emerge in this order after they're not probably going to come in on the same lap? But this could sort it out. But on the circuit, you feel Norbert Siedler's been round the block enough time to keep that Lamborghini at the front. But look, Kelvin van der Linde, he couldn't try more options around the course of the lap. He's trying the outside sweep, John. That's diminishing
not the right
returns.
thing to do, because you're going to get Costa the opportunity. What he's trying to do is force Siedler. He's trying to control Siedler, basically, but he hasn't got the speed. Now he's going to dive down the inside. Now he's done it. Wow, but he's overrun, and look what's happened. If anybody he's overtaken, they're going to have to give those positions back up. And he's not just lost one place, he's about to lose two, and the entire field is just bunching up. Kelvin van der Linde made the pass, couldn't slow it down, and has lost 2 places. Jules Gounon has been hip and shouldered out into the gravel.
Well, Gounon was innocent party there. He couldn't have made that Bentley invisible on the run between Hans Ernst Bock, the exit of, and then through the Kumo box. So third place now in the hands of Felipe Fraga. Kelvin van der Linde back down to fourth. So it's a Lamborghini 1-2 and trying to dive up the inside. Dries van Tor, car 32, he moves up into third place.
Rudy van der Linde with 4 cars all over the place. Fraga off the racetrack. Matthias Rudy, now something's happened. His car is slowed down. Whether he's had a tyre cut down or not, I don't know. But that, and look, Nick Foster, where did he come from?
Well, he didn't make a mistake. All those in front of him had moments where they were off the track, on the track. The Lamborghinis are suddenly going, thank you. Norbert Siedler hasn't had the pace in the car, but he's led from the start. Now his teammate Albert Costa. This is the battle for first place, the biggest advantage they've had. And they can fight among themselves, and fight they will. Costa won't like being second behind Siedler. He's going to try and make a move, but the pit stop window opens in just over 6 minutes. Oh, it's super sorting out. But suddenly, 7 cars nose to tail at the lead of the race. Now we're down to the 2 Lamborghinis clear. And unfortunately, the Awega number 33 Audi is off in the gravel trap. So I didn't see who he was fighting with, but the fight has come to an end.
So hopefully we're not going to get a full course yellow. It looks like the recovery vehicle is there. Albert Costa goes to go down the outside, coming down to the Hans Ernst Bock. What's happened? He's taken the lead.
Well, great move. I said he wouldn't fancy staying behind Norbert Siedler. The speed was definitely in Costa's hands and not in Siedler's, and now Siedler's got plenty of company. He's got Dries van Tor all over his tail. So what's been an indifferent meeting for the drivers who arrived here in the lead of the championship, Charles Weerts and Dries van Tor, suddenly their quality has shown in the heat of that battle. They haven't put a foot wrong, where of course Kelvin van der Linde did. He took the lead, he slid off at that Hans Ernst Bock. Taking the lead into that right-hander is easy to do. Getting the car round the corner is not. He failed, and that shuffled the pack behind. But Dries van Tor has stepped up to become the top Audi driver. Now he's got to see what he can do about Norbert Siedler.
Watch the alternative line that the Audi takes. Now he's going to make the undercut. Get on the throttle now. Hard drive the car up the hill. Try to get alongside the Lamborghini, but not enough grunt out of the hairpin bend. So all 3 of these cars powered by identical engines. The Audi V10 engine in both the Audi and the Lamborghini. Down into Schweibloch. Felipe Fraga, who was hip and shouldered also, I keep using that term. So he suffered as a consequence of what occurred 3 laps ago.
Well, Felipe Fraga's got to do it all over again, because it seems to be like an incident that happened that ran for about 4 corners, because we were still having the effects of the overspill from Kelvin van der Linde's move in Hans Ernst Bock. By the time we exited Tarzan, there's a lot of tarmac between those, but the cars still trying to sort themselves out. Felipe Fraga off the track in the Mercedes. That's why it's second in the Mercedes battle behind the Pro-Am class leader Nick Foster, who's really had a stunning meeting here at Zandvoort. Leads the class. The next car is 2 places further back, Eddie Cheever III, who's also having a cracking race meeting. The Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari just at the background of the shot. He's got Rick Breukers in behind with the bright green nose on his Audi. He's 8th. Then Axel Jeffries, Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes, and of course, the 3rd car in Pro-Am, Andrea Bertolini. It's been fast. It's been breathless. It's been properly furious.
It's been absolutely we're having a sort of slight quiet moment here because we're not seeing anybody trying to challenge. Well, I'm saying that the Bentley coming from behind.
Well,
so Jules Gounon making a recovery, just pops out, puts us up one more position. Jules Gounon was shoved out. Well, he just overtaken. Not sure which car it was now, because it looks as if it might have been Bertolini's Ferrari.
No, it was Yusuf Bohaka. It should have been. Yes, he's got past Bohaka, but unfortunately.
No, he hasn't.
No, he hasn't. He tried to. He got his nose in front. But for Jules Gounon, he was fighting over 4th place, shuffled out, as we saw about 3 laps ago on the run into Kumo, fallen to 12th, 13th. He's in 12th at the moment, but the speed is there down the start-finish straight. But actually, his driving stint's coming to an end.
Yeah, so in another 3 minutes, the pit lane will be opened. I don't know how many of these drivers in the lead group will opt to drop in. I suspect maybe some of the others. Christopher Haase, by the way, we saw that spin. He's up to 15th position, and that's a pretty impressive drive from the German.
Certainly is his next target. Another Audi, but from the Attepto camp. That's Nicolas Schürrle. And just up the road, another second or so, Thomas Neubauer in the Lexus. But right now, it's those Lamborghinis, first and second. Albert Costa wrested the lead from his pole starting teammate Norbert Siedler. They've got 1.2 seconds back to Dries van Tor, but I reckon Dries is going to start being challenged by Kelvin van der Linde. He's 0.8 of a second down. Chasen. Quite hard to pick those Audis out. They're both very, very similar liveries, you can see.
Yeah.
Blue, black and white.
I don't know whether Kelvin van der Linde, that contact in Tarzan, whether it had any effect on his car or not. He did get alongside Albert Costa. There was contact between the two cars. Very easy for that type of contact to make a small adjustment damage to a steering arm or to a suspension. So Dries van Tor is able to consolidate. He's just 0.8 of a second now ahead of Kelvin van der Linde in 4th place.
Jules Gounon still in 12th place, still trying everything to get past the Mercedes from Top Sport WRT. That's the Finnish racer Yusuf Bohaka at the wheel. In front of them is the car that's 3rd in Pro-Am. It's the AF Corsa Ferrari from Andrea Bertolini. Axel Jeffries just up the road ahead of them in the Mad Panda Motorsport car. For these drivers, their first stint, their one stint in the race could potentially come to an end in the next lap or so.
Look at Gounon all over the back of Bohaka in the Mercedes. He's trying one way, trying the other way. He knows his pace, his natural speed is a little quicker than that of the Mercedes he's pursuing, but it's so difficult. The nature of Zandvoort, all the turns blend into another, so there's no sort of long, straight, sharp turns. Just the only chance you get is into Tarzan at the end of the start-finish straight.
And I do actually really feel for Jules Gounon, because he was the sort of innocent party as the others sorted themselves out. We had the change of the lead, but unfortunately not the ability to get round the Hansa's box for Kelvin van der Linde. The two Lamborghinis had to scatter, both delayed. Jules thought, this is my chance.
Do you think Christopher Haase would feel that as well?
Perhaps not as much.
He got tagged.
But look at the top speed. That Bentley is a super fast tool. 261 kph, 3 kph faster than the Lexus. Then Hugo Chevalier in the second of the Bentleys, again, super quick, 257. But for Gounon, he cannot make that speed pay at the moment.
The quickest Audi is Dries van Tor, 5 kilometers per hour slower at this part of the racetrack. But the thing is, Dries van Thor's got 3rd place. Currently the Bentley, well, where is it now running in 12th place.
12th place and trapped at the moment behind Yusuf Bohaka. And in fact, I think the move is just... No, it's still Bohaka there. The car with the bright blue stripe up it. The metallic green Bentley bottles up behind. Also bottled up behind is Dries van Tor, getting closer and closer to Norbert Siedler, but with a good advantage now, 2+ seconds in the lead. Albert Costa stretching clear, almost out of sight.
Pit stop window is now open. And I don't know of any of this leading group of 4 cars particularly, in fact say 5 with Nick Foster leading in the Pro-Am category, and even Rick Breukers, who's leading in the silver category, whether he's going to want to pop into the pits at the earliest opportunity or not.
So some drivers ready, how soon their cars will come in we'll have to say, but for Albert Costa, you feel he wants to stay out. He's got that advantage and he'll stretch it as far as he can. He had more pace in this race than Norbert Siedler, had to bide his time, he had to weather the attacks from Kelvin van der Linde, but yet he's in the lead of the race after that sort out. Just the corner they've been through there, the Hans-Ernst-Bock, where it all went wrong for Kelvin van der Linde. Took the lead through the gravel, such a short lead. Lived moment for him, back in 4th place.
Well, Albert Costa's got a comfortable lead. It was 2.1 seconds at the end of lap 16.
Right, Siedler and van der Linde out of 2nd and 4th, diving into pits. Others will follow, but the advantage now in the lead, 3.1 seconds. back to Dries van Tor.
Again, look behind the Bentley, trying to find a way past the Mercedes down into Tars, and even with the speed advantage the Bentley has, he can't make it stick.
Super fast. We know there was contact on the opening lap. Don't know if it slightly bent the splitter on the Bentley, which will hamper it, but clearly in a straight line it's absolutely fantastic. But the frustration of being bottled up behind will be becoming really strong for Jules Gounon. So maybe it's a turn for Nelson Panciatici to try and make a passing manoeuvre in the pit lane. But out of second and fourth and emerging in that same order, it's still the Lamborghini started by Norbert Siedler, now being handed over to Michael Grenier, who took pole for the first race and looks very handy. But the whole story of this weekend, it's been constantly changing positions. But Nick Foster now up ahead of Felipe Fraga into third overall. No, that's right, makes sense. He was just ahead of him after that sort out.
Yeah,
of course, Fraga went wide out of Tarzan.
The reason he's in third position because of all the pit stops that have second and third position cars made their pit stops, which dragged up fifth and sixth place up to their position.
Yeah. My confusion. I thought we got ahead of Fraga, but of course Fraga went wide in all the sorting out. Excellent Tarzan.
Albert Costa, stay in the car, Albert. No reason to come in. You've got another 6.5 minutes before the pit window closes, so just capitalise on the benefits and advantage you've got. Dries van Tor going to do the same thing. He's going to hang out. As long as the Lamborghini hangs out, Dries van Tor is going to do the same. Somebody pulls it, I can't quite see.
That's Rick Breukers coming in. He's handed over to Rolf Eichen. Someone else is a few places further back. So let's just reiterate, during the middle of this pit stop window, we've got Albert Costa leading for the Emil Frey Lamborghini team, Dries van Tor second for Team WRT, then Nick Foster leading the Pro-Am class in a spectacular third overall. Top car in Silver Cup classes, Axel Jeffries, the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes, sixth overall. So a real juggling of the pack this weekend. But it's looking very good indeed for that Emil Frey Racing 163 Lamborghini. Don't forget, this finished fourth in the first race, but it had been challenging for the lead. It had a blowout, did one lap on 3 tyres and still came through to fourth. The pace was there. And apparently drops of rain being reported.
What did I say John? 10 minutes ago? Watch the cloud.
John, you're fixated on the weather, honestly.
Well, Bruce, I've got number one subject in our commentary is the weather, because it's had such a bearing on what we saw in the first race. Is it going to have a similar bearing here in the second race?
Right, so those who've already come in to make their pit stops, they might be starting to regret coming in as soon as pit window is open. We've still got 6 minutes till it closes. Leave it as long as you can. Albert Costa most certainly doing that.
By the way, the 17th place Lexus, Aurelian Panis behind the wheel, fastest sector time in sector 1, just taking over the car. Lexus is flanked. Albert Costa's coming in because obviously that message about potential rain, now the track isn't wet, but they're going to make a pit stop at this point. Whether the weather is going to continue to have a bearing or not in the outcome, but it's just a scheduled pit stop, I'm assuming.
Now, quite often what we get as Albert Costa, there's proper rain. Okay, proper rain. So if I was,
hold on,
I'd have left him out for longer to make that decision. But maybe they're confident in proper weight slicks.
Sticker slicks as well. Brand new sticker slicks going on what was the leading Lamborghini, but the rain is falling. We saw that nice little duck pond that we've got in the back of the circuit. Good pit stop by the Emil Frey team to get that car retired to the circuit. There is the 14 as it makes its way into. So is that lead 160? Is it going to come out in the lead still? Wipers on, range falling, but how heavy is it? Where's the sister car? There, it's coming into the background now.
Yeah, but it's a very slow pit exit. Look at Albert Costa's car now in the hands of Giacomato, just out of shot, but it takes a long, you just hear it accelerating. If I was Emil Frey Racing, which I'm not, I would have kept Albert Costa out longer for another lap. Reports of rain, but they put him on slick tyres. If they waited longer, they might go, no, these will not work.
Well, the question is, how much rain do you think there is going to be? Is it going to be rain as we had this morning? Certainly on the camera lens, you can see as they come out of the Hugenholz Heffen bend, there's enough rain attached to the lens. So tricky moments right now, because that rain gets heavier and heavier, and it comes in as it has done all weekend in very fast and intense pulses. It could transform the complexion of this race.
So Dries van Tor leading the race. Giacomato listed as second place, should be thus, but Dries van Tor continuing on his way, not diving in. lights flashing on the screen, some of those in behind. So it looks like Nick Foster now into second place, leading the Pro-Am class. Leave it as late as you can. It was the ASP Mercedes. That'll be handed over from Felipe Fraga to Timo Bogoslawski. Suddenly the pit lane is going to be busy. Check the rubber that is going to go onto these cars. Let's take a look at the ACA 88 Mercedes, and slick tyres appear to be the ones being fitted. So they think the rain is just a passing phase.
I think that you have to take what everybody else is doing, putting on slick tyres. Why would you want to be different? Do you know something that nobody else knows? So that's what everybody's doing. You do the same thing. If and all of a sudden heaven's open and the pit lane is deluged, then you go onto wet tyres.
Need sight of that pond again to see how heavy it's coming now. We've got some real racing down the start-finish straight. And it's the two Lamborghinis, nose to tail, but it's the one that started on pole position, number 14, still in second place. So he really closed up, but he had another lap under his belt on their fresh rubber. Windscreen wipers going for both of them. Giacomo Alto leading the race, and Mikko Grenier. More and more rain on the lenses of the cameras at the Gerlachbach. The track will take a while to become fully wet, but it's certainly working its way there. The lines will suddenly become more and more diverse, John.
As soon as you start to see wheel tracks on the track surface, then you know that's the point where the track is going to be at a transition between the slick tyre and then having to make another pit stop to go onto a set of Pirelli wet weather tyres. Right now that's not the case. But every lap, every time you come to a corner, you're never quite sure the level of grip you have. You have to trust in what you know, trust what you can see around you. Look around you. If there were spectators here and they're putting their umbrellas up, you know it's raining, but there aren't any spectators.
Yeah, you have to think a little more with your fingertips, your backside, your feet, get all the field you can. What is happening on the circuit? It still looks there's only very light rain, but remember early in the race, in the first race, the rain came for 2.5 laps, over and out.
It was one of those intense pulse. Gugno in, as is the 52 Ferrari. So get Andrea Bertolini, in goes Nick Thomas,
Louis Michel.
Yes. And same in the Bentley. Out gets Jules Gugno, who has had a rather adventurous drive this afternoon.
Finley Hutchinson getting into the 66, Attempto Racing Audi in the background, taking over from Nicolas Schull. But staying out in the lead of the race, Dries van Toor, I think he's doing the right thing. Stay out as long as you can.
He's got to come in at the end of this lap.
He does.
The pit lane window will be closing. So this is his last lap. So Charles Fetch will be standing there. Well, he won't need a seat insert because he's about 1.5 feet taller than Dries van Toor. It'll be Dries van Toor getting out with his seat insert. Nick Foster leads. Impressive drive from the Australian driver here this weekend. He likewise is going to be into the pits. So watch for the Audi to peel off. Here it comes. So just under a minute remaining before the pit lane window closes. As long as you're in before that 25 minutes comes up, then you're fine. So the Audi's certainly in, and I'm looking to see who else has just popped in as well.
Audi's in, Nick Foster's in behind him, and the third will be Eddie Cheever the third. Top three dropping out. So where will the Lamborghinis be when they sweep onto the start-finish straight? Their rivals in the pits at the moment, getting their tyre changes, driver changes of course as well. And the Lamborghinis out on the circuit. Altoe ahead of Mikko Grenier. This is where the time seems to stand still. Look to the corner in the background, the bank corner, waiting to see when those Lamborghinis come into view. Round the final corner they come, and Giacomo Alto stretching away, but Dries van Toor's car now in the hands of Charles Weerts, already on a roll, but it seems as though they're going through glue, that long run to pit exit where they have to go at such crop speed.
I think Alto might just get out ahead or get past. Difficult to see as we focus on the pit lane itself, not on the exit, to see whether Dries van Toor was able to take the lead or whether one of the two Lamborghinis could consolidate.
So what will the order be? Will it be Weerts, Altoe, and then Grenier? Wait till we get view of them going up towards, and Weerts has got out just in front of Altoe. That was super close. Altoe already up to speed, and Charles Weerts has got to assess the situation as he goes.
That's the key. Altoe knows what the track conditions are like. Charles Weerts is going to have to suck it and see, and he's having to do it under pressure as well. So Altoe trying to quickly clear the 32 Audi up through turn 9 into turn 10. Not much he could do here. Best chance again is in that risky area down into the Hans Ernst Bock. That's the very tight right then left. But again, good exit from the Audi. Those new tyres, putting them on the Audi, gave that slight benefit at this phase of a bit of extra traction.
Right, of course, this is the first time on this set of tyres, this at a full racing speed for Charles Weerts, holding a lead. It's about it's about 3/4 of a second, according to the eye, but he's sweeping, taking that low entry line, and then the wide exit line from the final corner of the lap, but a better exit from the Lamborghini in behind. He's got another lap worth of heat into those tyres. Surely not close enough for Altois to move up the inside to take the lead, but he's thinking about it. I thought he was going to duck back in a little bit earlier, trying to unsettle Charles Weerts into Tarzan. It didn't work.
Well, Weerts certainly took the more traditional entry into Tarzan and opened up a gap, which Altois did give a thought about whether I can or not take it down the inside, but wisely decided no, there wasn't going to be space. The door was closing, and the one thing you never do as a racing driver, and repeat it ad infinitum, is go into a closing gap.
Asking for trouble and really stretching their advantage over the second Lamborghini for Michael Grenier, dropping back 1.5 seconds behind them on the start-finish line, just out of our shot. Second Lamborghini now coming into our shot, but now Charles Weerts leading by about 1/3 of a second at this point out or into turn 9, Bock 9, then Bock 10, and then they've got the run down that short infield straight, one of the rare straights on this circuit, down towards the Hans Ernst Bock, looking very good for the Audi.
Bruce.
Yes, John.
I think they've turned their wipers off. I think the rain might have passed through.
2.5 laps this morning.
There we are.
2.5 this afternoon. So you, the harbinger of doom, have added some spice to the race, John, but right now it looks like a dry circuit. No spots on the lenses either.
So Charles Weerts has managed to survive that opening lap, and he's gone on to second, come up to the completion of a second lap behind the wheel, and looks to me as if he has taken control of the lead of this race and has pulled away fractionally. It was just 1/4 of a second last time I came across start-finish line 1 lap ago. What is it now? It's going to be, where it's come up, 7/10 of a second, so he's gained the best part of 4.5 of a second on the last lap. That will be good. The reason he did that, because he had fastest overall time in this race in Sector 2.
I want to blow a fanfare. The car that was spun on the opening lap is now up into 6th place overall for Arthur Rougier. We said, you picked it out, John, that Chris Verhaas was doing a fantastic job chipping his way from 22nd, working his way forward and up into 6th place, right with Timo Boguslawski, who's in 5th for ACA ASP. That is a stormingly good run.
Certainly is, and that 25 Audi is one that, whichever race, endurance and sprint, whatever, it's always a competitive car. It's a shame that Christopher Hassett got rotated, because he could be a car that would be battling overall lead as we watch the Ferrari climbing up the hill. That is Chris Frogger behind the wheel, running in 12th place. Jimmy Pla has just overtaken him now, so Pla has gone up to 12th. Frogger has dropped down to 13th.
Yeah, but Frogger leading the Pro-Am class at the moment, so very, very good run for the Sky Tempesta crew, and certainly that lineup with Eddie Cheever the third, they're both really, really solid drivers.
Excellent,
and, reaping dividends for the Sky Tempesta team.
Watch you go, whoa, what's happened up there, Valentine? And he's gone off.
Well, you have to ask, because of course that was the car that rose right up to 5th place in the hands of Nick Foster to lead the Pro-Am class, but unfortunately for Valentin Pierberg, that is why.
Don't know why
it's
he
not
did
in
it.
the lead of the class.
Like to see why he made that error, but he went off deep into the gravel at turn 9, and of course lost all the good yards that Nick Foster assisted in getting that car up through the field.
Right, the Bentleys are running in 10th and 11th places. Jules Gounon, and then in behind we've got the dark blue car, the sister car, Pierre-Alexandre Jean, but you can see Gounon's car is now
damaged to the right
it's
front,
heavily damaged.
But remember, the transponder in this car is not tripped over. It's Patricici is behind the wheel.
Yeah, I was looking during their pit stop to see if there's any slight bodywork damage to the other side of the front after that first corner clash, but the race isn't running into the dark, so he doesn't need a headlight.
Bruce, the spares bin at Bentley for right-hand front bodywork must be exhausted. This car in particular has suffered, I don't know how many times this year, it must be at least 2 or 3 times it's been involved where the right front bodywork has been ripped off.
Well, maybe it's a blind spot when they're in very, very close racing. It was Pierre-Alexandre Jean's car, the sister car, that lost it last time around, the one he shares with Hugo Chevalier. Finished 2nd in the first race here today. Conditions could not be more different. That little flurry of rain, it came, it went, it didn't trouble the runners. So anybody who decided when it's raining heavily enough, we'll put wet weather tyres. Well, they might as well park their car.
Arthur Rouget going to give Timo Bogoslavsky a good working out. Make no mistake, Arthur Rouget is one of the stars, in my view, of this season's GT series. It's been absolutely unbelievable. GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. Well, Arthur Rouget has got it tattooed on his arm.
Hasn't he just? On both of his hands it says attack, attack, and that's what he does really, really well indeed. But those first two, Charles Weerts for the number 32 Team WRT Audi, getting clear with Giacomo Alto. Then 3-4 seconds back to Mikko Grenier in those second of Lamborghinis in third place overall. But this little battle, Timo Bogoslavsky in fifth and Arthur Rouget really going very well indeed. But they're not likely to catch the car in fourth. The car we haven't mentioned a great deal since Kelvin van der Linde dived into the lead of the race fleetingly and then immediately fell off, because Tomita, who shared that opening race victory with him, is running on his own. Nearly 3 seconds down on Grenier and 5 and a bit seconds clear of the rest.
But in part, that was all because when Kevin van der Linde made that dive as he did to try and take the lead into Hans' own spot, he ran over the inside of the corner. He had to give up positions. He probably got tagged. So that was the point where the 31 Audi started to go backwards, and the best they are able to do right now is consolidate in fourth place.
Arthur Rouget, he's not prepared with going inside and just only inside. He goes outside as well, then dives to the inside. Will that work? Will he get past Bogoslavsky? He's on the outside line. Will he be hung out to dry? It's a long way round on the outside, but he's got the move done, surely, John.
He's got the drive off the corner. He's done a good job to go the long way around. Bogoslavsky had no response. He was on the race line. He was probably better placed to consolidate, but somehow Rouget found traction and grip on the outside of the racetrack and just drove around the outside of the Mercedes to take that position away, and that is a happy Arthur Rouget, who's now up into fifth place.
Yeah, but all along the Silver Cup class leader Aurélien Panis getting closer and closer, was very quick from the outset on this stint, and picked his way forward into 7th place overall as others pitted. And also just want to highlight Oscar Tunyo up into 8th overall. He's second in the Silver Cup class, only 3 seconds down. So for Top Sport WRT, that is an increasingly good run. He's just out of the background of the shot. Top speed on the banking, it still belongs to Bentley ahead of Lexus as before. Nelson Panciatici, obviously that's better than Gounon's car. Now, that is Gounon's car, albeit without the headlight, but still that great punching speed.
Here the Hugenholz hairpin bend, and ironically, of the two new bank corners at Zandvoort, it's the Hugenholz that's really offering up the greater number of opportunities. We saw certainly in this morning's race when the track was wet, when options were available, different lines, partly dry, some wet, not quite being so available. Everybody trying to protect as well as attack.
Certainly has provided more options and spectacle for the fans. You know, it is great. I mean, any bank corner will add a real twist. And as we saw, John, just when they had that rolling start, it really emphasised just how steep the banking is.
Oh, I mean, I didn't realise it until I saw all 22 cars, and you could see very reminiscent of some of the circuits in North America. I mean, Indy has got a banking which is shallower than this. Daytona's banking is steeper than this. So it's somewhere in the middle of Indy and Daytona. But it is a banked corner, a distinct banked corner.
I think Aurélien Panis really fancies his chances against Timo Bogoslavsky. Bogoslavsky being dropped now by Arthur Rouget. Rouget actually out of shot just about as they go around the final corner. You can see the flashes of the yellow and white Audi. That's going to cross the line in 5th place overall, but he's put a good second, I would think, on to Bogoslavsky. At 1.9 seconds he's pulled clear. And Panis is closing down, as we can see. Again, looking behind, clouds all around the racetrack, looking very dark and threatening. There is this battle that's going on. Charles Weerts still leading Giacomo Alte just under a second as they came across the line at the end of lap 28. Staying constant, absolutely constant.
But Bruce, can the Lamborghini come back? I think Alte is coming back fractionally on Charles Weerts. The gap was certainly over a second a number of laps ago. Now it's just under a second. I just wonder, has maybe Charles Weerts used the tyre a little bit aggressively to try and gain the advantage, and that in turn has allowed Alte, who's maybe been a little bit more conservative in his opening laps, to start to draw back into the lead Audi.
Certainly a possibility, and if my eyes don't deceive me, that gap is coming down. Just remember, it was 0.8 of a second last time around on the start-finish line. It looks like it's only about half of that, maybe just half a second overall as they sweep around. They've got 28 laps on the board, 29 about to be completed. The gap back to third place to Michael Grenier in the second of those Lamborghinis, 6 seconds upwards. They've got traffic up ahead.
That's going to be the moment where this race will be finally decided, because when traffic comes into play, and unless that traffic is cooperative there, we see the brakes again. Rouget is the latest on the brakes now. Altway the next one, 3.36 of a metre behind. And Drudy, and whereabouts is Charles Vance on the brakes? But he's braking probably a little bit earlier by the look of those figures we're seeing on screen.
Yeah, maybe not having to take the risk.
Oh, come on, Dries. Look, come on, look what's happening. That was the reason why he was upset. The Mercedes, that was one of the back markers, didn't get out of the way. Now Altway all over the back of the Audi, coming down to the straight block.
Did I see in the background a great big piece of tyre or something sitting in the track just on the exit of Rob Slottermacher? We'll have to look just on the crest. Maybe my eyes are getting a bit tired, but certainly a person who isn't getting tired is Giacomo Altway, given the opportunity to halve that gap. On the start-finish line, it was 0.5 of a second. That isn't 0.5 of a second now. That Mercedes really wandering around in their path. Unfortunate indeed, but that has certainly not helped them.
And that's the reason why we cut back to the pitch to see Dries van Thor. The look of disgust on his face was palpable, but once again coming down into the Hans-Ernst Bock. Altway thought about it, tried to think about down the inside, pulled back, got in behind the Audi under the braking, and it remains. There is Dries van Thor. Come on, Dries. It's only a motor race, you know.
Only 12.5 minutes to go as well. It could be 12.5 very long minutes for this all-Belgian duo, but certainly Charles Weert's driven really, really well at the moment. He's actually eked a little bit of advantage. No traffic ahead of them this time around. That is good. Let's see the gap. 0.52 of a second last time. 0.373. So it did actually go out during the middle of the lap, but using the slipstream down the start-finish straight.
And also remember that the Lamborghini is quicker. We've seen that Altway is the second quickest off the banking, and the Audis are not. So the benefit is maybe fractionally towards the Lamborghini at the end of the long, or I shouldn't say longer, it's no longer a long pit straight. It's about half its original length, but it's still the best part of 700 metres long.
Yeah, it doesn't stretch all the way into the town centre anymore, John, does it?
Or into the next village at the other end of the straight. Well, there is something, you're right, Bruce, well spotted.
So that's not in a position it could be cleared, but they've seen that last time around. They have to remember that.
I think that's bodywork more than tyre.
Yeah, in a lining of a wheel arch, perhaps.
Something like that, yeah.
So, first and second, Giacomo Altway in second place, trying his utmost to catch the number 32 Audi, the car that came here with the championship lead. That's Dries van Thor, and the driver at the wheel at the moment, Charles Weert. The clock counting down. It's a 1 hour long race. We've only got just 11.5 minutes remaining. Is this nut that's one too hard to crack?
Well, actually, I think Charles Weert has extended the lead was down to under half a second. It's actually probably back up to about half a second in the middle part of the racetrack. We're interested to see whether the Lamborghini can once again close that gap down by maybe a tenth or 2 tenths of a second at the point when they come across start-finish line. Last time across the line, gap was 3 tenths of a second. At the minute, I would say it's probably nearer to 8 tenths, 9 tenths, possibly even up as much as a second.
I know, the heady margin of a second. I think we might have cracked it this lap, but again, getting a bit of a slipstream down the start. 0.84 of a second. Let's split the difference. Giacomo Altway still second in that number 163 Emil Frey racing Lamborghini. Almost needed. Well, it'd be about 8 seconds, nearly 9 seconds back to Michael Grenier in third place. Fourth place at the moment, Riachiro Tomita. He's 2 seconds down on Grenier's Mercedes. May yet haul that in, but in fact a better lap from Grenier then. Fifth place, Arthur Rougier. How close is he? 4.6 seconds down on Tomita. So with the clock counting down, looks though our top five, Rougier's charge might have come to an end in terms of gaining places.
Yeah, but the last lap by Rougier was about 7 tenths of a second quicker than Tomita. So it certainly, I think Rougier is challenging whether he's got enough time left, 10 minutes of this race remaining, to run down the fourth place. WRT Audi is marginal, and if he catches them, then finding a way around with less than 10 minutes now is probably unlikely.
Right, Silver Cup class, it's led by Aurelien Panis, but Oscar Tunio's got down to within a second, the Colombian racer. They've already picked up a couple of 8th places in the course of this season, sharing with Yusuf Oaxaca. They're running 8th at the moment, but could very easily become their best result in 7th. Look, they're not that far down on the ASP Mercedes, Timo Bogoslawski. So really, this is TalkSport WRT starting to stretch its legs, find its form. Because ACA ASP for so long now have been the top Mercedes team in this championship. And a new kid on the block, if you like, for TalkSport, going very well indeed.
So disappointment for Timo Boguslavski that he's dropped away from the 25 Audi, and there we see, well, that's good work by the Mercedes, just pulling over to the side, let those cars that are lapping get through cleanly, and anything ventured, anything gained will not in particular, as they all come through the final turn onto the straight. Gap between first and second still at that 3/4 of a second, and Arthur Rouget, well, 4.1 seconds now behind Tomita, who's actually closed into just under 2 seconds from the third place Michael Grenier.
Yeah, but you feel 8.5 minutes on the clock. The clock is going to run out. It won't be 2 podium positions. It's already a win for Tomita and Kelvin van der Linde. But I think 4th is as high as they can expect now, because the clock really is counting down. Just want to point out the top car in Pro-Am, Chris Froggatt, Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari, and he's got nearly 5 seconds to good over Louis Michels. And unfortunately, with the SPS Mercedes having fallen off, and have we got a bit more cloud, a bit more rain, that's fallen down to 3rd in the Pro-Am class.
I think the curtains are being drawn here in Zandvoort because it's getting darker and darker. Race vision powered by AWS Silver Cup. Who's late in the brakes?
Oh, it's Robin Rogalski leading the way. Stepped up from racing his Audi in the R8 Cup. Pierre-Alexandre Jean, but that's quite a margin later. Earlier, Rogalski was right near the top, so the young German going better and better deep into the corners. But then again, of course, if you want to be quite ribald about this, it could have been a mistake, but we didn't see his car off in the gravel. That's always the joke. The one who braked latest was the one that didn't take the corner.
Well, that's a very good thought. Very good thought indeed. But let's go back to this battle with the Lexus in 7th place, Timo Boguslavski in 6th place in the Mercedes. There's the rear view from the Mercedes coming through the final turn. So what can the Lexus do? We know it's got good straight line performance. Is it closing? Well, it's marginal, and of course the onboard cameras are very wide angle lens. Doesn't give you the true perspective that the natural eye does as the two cars come down into Tarzan.
Yeah, but what we're seeing there is the Colombian racer at the back of that pack's got a double toe, and Oscar Tunio took about half a second out of the 2 cars ahead of him. The cars running in 6th and 7th places. Timo Boguslavski for AKSP and the Tech 1 Racing Lexus being hauled in by Tunio. Now 1st to 2nd, that's closed down a little bit. Half a second is the gap.
It's closed down. It opened up, so nearly a second. It's closed back down. You can see how close it is, certainly in turn 10. There's, 0.2 of a second between the 2 cars. In case the gap opens up as the lead car accelerates initially first, and then the second car follows down hard on the brakes. Wow! I thought Altoy maybe just was going to overrun and could have got close to the back of the Audi, but luckily anticipated where the Audi was going to brake. But there's threat coming now to Charles Bertz. If he can maintain the gap through this long corner onto start finish straight, well, Bertz has opened up the gap once again as they come onto pit straight. So what looked like potential threat to the lead of this race has just about momentarily anyway relaxed.
Charles Bertz still confident enough to just drive his line. He's not yet adapting it too often around the course of the circuit to try and keep the lead. He's not compromising his line, so his lap pace still very, very good indeed. This battle is now really shaping up. I fancied last time around Oscar Tunjo getting closer and closer. We know the Lexus is quick in a straight line, but you feel 7th place is about to be removed potentially as they get down to Tarzan.
Yeah, all 3 of these cars, the Mercedes and the Lexus, potentially could jumble their positions up, and Tunio is the one of the 3 that seems to have the legs right now. But of course, having the legs and finding a way past those 2 other cars is an entirely different story. It's just 5 minutes of this race to run, the best part of this lap and probably 2 more before the checkered flag comes out. But look at Tunio, good drive up the hill and almost in a position to get up alongside the Lexus through the Rob Schrottemacher curve.
Another gap that's coming down is the one between 3rd and 4th, Michael Grenier's Lamborghini and Riachiro Tomita, but it's only down to 1.6 seconds. We're dealing in 10ths of a second, and for the Japanese racer to have a tilt at the podium, as you said, John, 5 minutes remaining until the checker. He's got to be taking half a second a lap out of the car ahead, and then catch it's one thing, passing is quite another here at Zandvoort.
Well, this is probably the focus of where the final top 6 positions are going to be decided, so that Tunio can find a way past Panas, Aurelian Panas in 7th and 8th. 6th is the Mercedes of Timo Boguslavski.
Sky getting darker and darker. We have had little drops of rain, a very quick flurry of rain just when the pit window was opened, but it looks as though with a few minutes left we will get to the end of this 1 hour race with a dry circuit, and for Aurélien Panis the time is starting to run out. Not likely now to get that 6th place from Timo Bogoslawski.
But what he's got to be careful is he doesn't concede his 7th place to Oscar Tunio, because that's the car, and these back to the lead battle. Rainy are sort of Giacomo Alto getting again close to the rear of Charles Vance over the rolling, coasting sand dunes of Zandvoort. Luckily, because of the rain, there's no wind-blown sand getting onto the track. Dries van Thor pacing nervously, one might say.
Very, very different attitudes. Belgian Audi Club Team WRT, they're the hunted, they're nervous, whereas Emil Frey Racing, they're fist pumping,
sure,
getting their attacker to make his move.
Well, I think Dries feels that.
Oh no, drive-through penalty for our race leader for a pit stop infringement. That is maybe the news that he had seen, why they were so downbeat, and definitely why Emil Frey Racing was so upbeat. Can that message be got through to Giacomo Alto? I don't want him to make any mistakes, take any risk at this point, because the victory is in his hands.
Absolutely.
Now.
Well, the team should be, Emil Frey Racing should be on the radio immediately to transfer that news. And of course, Bertz is going to have to come in at the earliest opportunity. Is he coming in this lap? Staying out. Mind you, he's going to stay out with 1 lap and a bit more to go. So whether they might choose not to come in, because I think you're given 3 laps to come in for an offence, they might possibly decide to not come in and then see if they can review or if there's any option at all. I don't know if they've got
and you can have a penalty applied after the race, a fixed time. Maybe they've also looking out the window thinking, hold on, we know how long it takes to come in, do a drive-through out the other end. Where will that put us in traffic when we come out? Not that traffic will be in front of them for more than literally 1 lap. But right now, Charles Wirtz is leading the race, but the drive-through penalty to be served. Pit stop infringement. Oh, the smallest of margins make the biggest of differences in motor racing, and it's so frustrating for teams when they happen. But being a judge. And apparently it's that classic moment where the engine was started before the engines hit the ground. Let's take a look at that. That's always a no-no. The car's still on the jacks.
Yeah, you can hear it indeed. I mean, you might call it a schoolboy error, but I mean, Charles Bertz is 18 years old. He's just about old enough to still go to school. But, you know, there's normally there should be a sign to say start the engine. I don't know whether that's the case with WRT or not, whether that's left to the driver's discretion. But certainly in this instance, there was a clear infringement. And sadly, I mean, a great battle for the lead of this race is now going to be determined by a drive-through penalty.
So victory in the first race for Belgian Audi Club Team WRT, and it's not going to happen in the second race. It was by the smallest of margins, but just the wrong side of getting that engine started before the car was back down onto the pit apron. Drive-through penalty. He's not diving in yet. No, he's carrying on onto the final lap of the race.
It's the last lap. So he's done what I suggested he might do, is not because you're given a 3-lap window to make your pit stop, your drive-through penalty. So they're going to finish the race, and then they're going to see if they can retrospectively or whatever change the route.
But bear in mind, John, that Dries and Charles came in the championship lead, no points in the first race, and now
the point is, Bruce, the car that takes the checkered flag, is it going to be deemed the winner under review or not?
Well, let's focus on who's going to pick up the other classes. Don't know the answer to that, John. Leading Silver Cup class is 7th place overall, Aurélien Panis. Leading the Pro-Am class, Chris Froggatt. There he is. Sky Tempesta Racing. Louis Michiels in the AF Corsa Ferrari, nearly 6 seconds back. And then 3rd in class after that mishap, Valentin Peerberg in the SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes. But up at the front, leading the way, car 32, Belgian Audi Club Team WRT, Charles Wirtz. Half a second is his margin, maybe slightly less. But the car behind, Giacomo Alto, knows the lead car has got a drive-through penalty to serve. This final lap, he'll just coast it around on the tail of the Audi. He'll suggest I could have passed him if I really fancied, but doesn't need to. No. Play it safe.
So the penalty has been applied, but the team, at the point the penalty was applied, have chosen to finish the race. I think, having the regulation in front of me, I think you're allowed a window of laps before you have to do that. And I think this would be this is the last opportunity. At the point where he takes the flag, he should have been in the pits by now. So there will be a discussion after the checkered flag is taken. So WRT take the checkered flag. Who is the winner? One would have to say, based on what we have seen, it's got to be Giacomo Alto in the Emil Frey race.
And it'll be a 1-2 for the Lamborghinis, first and second on the grid, because the second Lamborghini coming through, but with really intense company from Tomita, who got to within half a second at the very end. Needed just literally 2 more laps, but finishing fourth on the track, could well become third when his teammate, the 32 car, has to serve that drive-through.
The rest of the field make their way through. So Silver Cup goes to Panis, Aurelian Panis in the Lexus, followed by Oscar Tunio and then Ezekiel Perez Compact.
Okay, the time has been added, and at the moment Charles Veers listed now suddenly in 10th place overall, with the time penalty taken instead of the drive-through penalty. Probably the sensible move. Car that's about to win the Pro-Am class just coming through. Tempesta Racing, Chris Froggatt will coming home in 13th overall, but victory in the Pro-Am class. A good haul of points for Sky Tempesta this weekend. So, what a race. Two completely
speechless.
And it was a 30-second time penalty that was added. That's why down to 10th place, as we just indicated. So 30 seconds was the time penalty, but victory for Lamborghini, and really quite fair. This car, fourth in the first race, challenging for the lead, had that blowout and a really, really strong run on 3 tyres back to the pits, and they still got fourth.
I think one could say, in fairness, Emil Frey Racing Lamborghinis over the weekend have been pretty much the class of the field. They certainly had the pace in qualifying for the second race this afternoon. And unfortunately, well, there we see happy Albert Costa. He's done his job.
Well, they've, a fourth and a first this weekend. That is a good haul of points when it had all gone wrong in that first race. But Albert Costa and Giacomo Alto, who brought it home. He also brought it home on 3 tyres when he came in for that pit stop in the first race. But Zandvoort has been a happy hunting ground for Emil Frey Racing. And let's take a look at the results. It's a 1-2 for Emil Frey Racing. Albert Costa, Norbert Siether started the race, but Giacomo Alto, Michael Grenier finished it off. 13 seconds to the good after that time penalty served. The car listed down in 10th place overall. Charles Weerts and Dries van Tor. A marginal mishap in the pits, but big ramifications. This has been a rotten weekend for Weerts and van Tor, riding high in the championship until they came to Zandvoort. Top car in the Silver Cup class in 6th place overall, Aurelian Panis and Thomas Neubauer. Top car in the Pro-Am class, 13th place on that table there. Chris Froggatt by 7 seconds from Louis Machil. So Ferrari's first and second in the Pro-Am class, but a meeting with so much to discuss, John. It's been fast, it's been furious, it's been wet, it's been dry, but it's been fun from start to finish.
And I think, I have to say, the changes to Zandvoort have been a massive success from my perspective. That's added variety and a challenge to all the teams here. And, it was a gamble, bit of bank corner, particularly coming on to start finish straight to bit of bank corner at the Hugenholz. The idea of having cars go side by side through them was probably a little bit ambitious, but we wait to see. This is the first time we've seen what I would call a high-profile professional race series here at Zandvoort. Many more to come.
Well, let's head down and hear from our winners. Very, very happy. Albert Costa and Giacomo Alto.
Albert, Giacomo, that's the result that you've been pushing for so hard. Congratulations, what a drive.
Yeah, it was a crazy race, no? It was so nice. It was like a karting race. We were Norbert, Kelvin, me, fighting each other. We were trying to pass each other all the time. At the end, Kelvin has tried to Norbert. Then Norbert let me pass, to be honest, because he had some issue. And then I say, push Albert, it's your race. And then we did it, but Van Tor was really quick in the rainy laps. So he was out P2, but luck finally was in our side, because it was not a real win, but we win, so I'm really, really happy. And yeah, talk to him now.
Absolutely, a win is a win. And Giacomo, that final few laps, once you knew the pressure was off, did you get the message through from the team?
Yeah, of course. I had the message 2 laps to go, and then I had to only manage and stay behind because I knew of this. And yeah, it's been a crazy race, but finally we are back after the bad luck from the qualifying and the race 1. So I'm so happy for me, for Albert. We did a great job for the team. So thank you all.
Fantastic, well done.
Thank you.
John, you talk of confidence, momentum. You certainly feel it's coming the way of that duo in particular. Emil Frey Racing on the rise, but Altoe and Costa really happy with that.
I think particularly for Altoe in particular, he's not yet the established star that Albert Costa is, and he did a very good job under extreme pressure all the way through.
But it was such a hunt in those closing laps, and you can imagine the frustration for Dries van Tor and for Charles Weerts. First on the track, but down to 10th with that time penalty.
Yes, unfortunately, these are human errors, and those are errors that can be corrected. And WRT operate an extremely professional operation. They'll look at that and wonder why it happened. It'll not happen in the future.
Well, let's find out. Silver Cup victory went to the Lexus crew. We've caught up with them.
Thomas, Aurélien, a fantastic result for you guys now, showing that that race pace is there.
Yeah, obviously we were not expecting this ending at the beginning of the weekend after this kind of hard qualifying, but at the end we are pretty happy with the result. I think we really deserved it after the beginning of the season, which has been quite unlucky for us. But yeah, massive drive by my teammate, and yeah, finally.
Absolutely, and Aurélien, you put in a fantastic second part of that race.
Yeah, it was good. The car was really good. The pace was there. Thomas did a great start. I'm just really happy for all the team because the luck was not there at the beginning of the season, and finally we are on the podium. We won the silver, so just really happy.
Fantastic, well done.
Thank you.
You can sense the relief there as well. Different levels of relief, but that car from the outset of the championship, the Lexus has looked really good in parts, but just not been able to deliver. But now it's starting to really find its form.
Yeah, I mean, I've been impressed by this car pretty much all the way through the season. And we know that it's got great strength in certain parts of racetracks, but it's just overall a very good package. And two drivers, Thomas Neubauer in particular, Aurélien Panis, who's learning, as it were, on the hoof. You know, potentially this car, as a Silver Cup car, could. Well, we've seen the Audi win and Manicure.
Fantastic. That's exactly how you want the double win for the weekend. Eddie, the very first lap there, you had to avoid the contact.
Yeah, it was a crazy start. I thought I had a little hole on the inside. I gained a lot of positions, but then I saw a yellow Audi spinning right in front of me. That was not nice. But I'm pretty happy with the first stint. Chris did an amazing job after in the second stint. Got the lead, so very good job from him and very good for the team.
Sure thing. And Chris, that's the dream weekend, double win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't wish for more. 2 wins, consistent driving, super happy, great experience for both of us, and a good position in the championship.
Congratulations, well done, boys.
Thank you, thanks a lot.
So 2 wins for the Sky Tempesta crew. Eddie Cheever the third, and the taller figure of Chris Froggatt. And it was a battle that went up and down, and certainly they weren't really in the reckoning. They were second overall, but don't forget the SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes in the lead of the race of the Pro-Am Honours. Certainly in the hands of Nick Foster. A little slip up though for Valentin Pierberg, left them third overall. But now it's time for the podium ceremonies. And for Emil Frey Racing, great happiness for the crews down there. They've really worked hard to come back today, but that was for the pit stops as well. That's the Emil Frey crew. And then we'll get first and second on the podium. Of course, those 2 Lamborghini crews, and the third place in the end went to Ryoichiro Tomita. Don't forget, he was a winner of the opening race today. Seems a long time ago now with Kelvin van der Linde. But let's wait for the podium ceremony about to kick off. And here come the tall South African and the slightly shorter Japanese racer, Ryoichiro Tomita, picks up the check. A good haul of points, a trophy apiece, and off they go. That's certainly given their championship challenge a major fillip. Came here in 5th place overall, but will have gained several positions, I would think, with that great couple of races.
Yeah, they've been delighted with 3rd place, albeit at the expense of the number 32 Audi, which by all accounts was going to win this race, and then that infringement took it away. So they're happy to be there for their team and WRT.
And really one of the drivers of the race. We've got to remember that stone last after the opening corner, Arthur Rousier and Christopher Haas up to 4th overall. But let's take a look at the points. It's much tighter. It's just half a point between Dries van Tor, Charles Weerts and the chasing teammates Tomita and Kelvin van der Linde. And then Stoltz and Engel just 3 points further back in 3rd. So it's really tight. But it was a case of Weerts and van Tor taking not 1 but 2 trip-ups this weekend at Zandvoort. Unfortunate. But winners outright in the second of the 2 races here. Giacomo Alto and Albert Costa walking over with the Czechs. They've got going to pick up their trophies as well. And they have every reason to smile. It's been a great hunting ground for them here at Zandvoort.
Victory. Next up is the Silver Cup here at the GT World Challenge. 3rd place overall, Matt Panda Motorsport.
Look at Albert's face. You can see his eyes are smiling.
You don't see his mouth, but you see those eyebrows going up.
Yeah.
Tells it all in the eyes.
Absolutely.
So Mad Panda Motorsport making great strides this inaugural season. Ezekiel Perez Companc and his Zimbabwean teammate Axel Jeffries. First visit to Zandvoort. He's had a really good meeting. Second place, Talksport WRT, also making strides in their Mercedes. Oscar Tunjo and Yusuf Pohaka. So coming in second, he picks up the trophy and the check and the set of tyres.
Place trophy. Then the winners today. Tech 1 Racing with Alexis Aurélien Panis and Thomas Neubauer.
We've heard from them already, Aurélien Panis and Thomas Neubauer. Victory in the Silver Cup, 6th place overall. Definitely making strides in their Lexus.
Or at least one of the team joining them with the team trophy and fat check. Of course, lots of money going around today. And
So Silver Cup honours 6th, 7th and 8th for the top 3 crews in Silver Cup, representing a really, really good run for all of those. But just remember, it was our Lamborghini 1st and 2nd today. That's something that they've really grown into at Emil Frey.
You know, across all the categories, the Pro-Am, the Silver and the Pros themselves, there's just nowhere to hide, and you cannot afford to make a technical issue as a pit stop you saw with the 32 Audi or a small driving error, because if you do, the field is all over you like a rash.
Well, indeed, Valentin Pierberg, who's the first one out there, 3rd place in the class, but he took over the SPS Mercedes in the lead. One little slip up down at turn 9, suddenly out of the lead, let the Ferraris come through. So the 2 Ferraris, 1st and 2nd in Pro-Am. AF Corsas, Louis Michiels and Andrea Bertolini come striding out for their trophies. And the next crew through have had a fantastic race meeting at Zandvoort. Eddie Cheever and Chris Frogger, 104 points. Look, they're 29 points clear of this duo here, Bertolini and Michiels. No wonder Chris Frogger coming out with a team representative and Eddie Cheever very, very happy with life.
Yeah, the Sky Tempesta team has done a really solid job. I mean, going back to Manicourt 2 or 3 weekends ago, 2 cars and they dominated their categories.
race 2, the GT World Challenge Europe.
So that completes the podium ceremony. Cars already on track for the next race. It's a busy, busy day at Zandvoort. Great to be racing here on the new circuit, new for 2020, with those 2 bank corners that have made such a difference. Hugenholz-Bocht and the Arie Luijendijk-Bocht onto the start-finish straight. They added to the racing, they added to the mix, and it's been great from start to finish through 2 races that could not have been very different at all. More different at all. One had weather, the other had dry weather. Take a look back to the start though, and leading from those Lamborghinis at the front row, Norbert Siegler held on to pole position. Up the inside from 3rd on the grid came Kelvin van der Linde to put the Audi between the 2 Lamborghinis, and for poor Christopher Hutter, spun round after 4th place, fighting over 4th place with Jules Gounon. The avoidance from behind was phenomenal, and then it was a case of settling it all down again. And certainly the first 3 cars getting clear, and Albert Costa pushing really, really hard indeed, almost getting into contact with... And then suddenly Kelvin van der Linde said, enough, because I'm going to take the lead. But Hans Ernst Bock couldn't get the braking done, rejoined the circuit. And this is where it all got very busy behind, and being shoveled to the outside into the gravel, went Jules Gounon minding his own business. And suddenly, instead of fighting over 4th, he was down in 10th. The Vega's car ended up deep in the gravel, but the racing kept on coming. Jules Gounon walked his way back up the order, but then got stuck in the traffic. Rolfie Nyken handed over to Rick Breukers, and then those behind. There was a little flurry of rain just as the cars... Look, the windscreen wiper is going just at the time the pit window was open. Do you put it onto slicks? Maybe that would have been an idea for some. There was a little mistake there from Valentin Pierberg, losing the lead in the Pro-Am class. Sorry, Silver Cup class. But out front, it was very, very busy indeed. 32, Charles Weerts leading the way, being pushed really hard by Giacomo Altoe. But at the end, he was first to the finish, but we knew he had a time penalty. So that dropped him down to 10th, and it ended up as a 1-2. Giacomo Altoe beating Michael Grenier as Emil Frey Racing took 1st and 2nd at Zandvoort. So let's take a look at the points. It's super close at the top, 58 points, just half a point clear. That drive-through penalty has really, really cost them. Tamita and van der Linde of win and 3rd place today moves them right into the mix. Stolz and Engel in 3rd place. Boguslawski raced on his own because without his regular teammate. He holds station in 4th place. Christopher Haase and Arthur Rougier recovered after a big spin and not scoring in the first race. But the real story is that it's super, super tight at the top of the charts. And Weerts and Van Thorp will be cursing their form and their fortune here at Zandvoort.
Well, top 3 runners in the championship. It's going to be a real shootout when we get to Barcelona. And any one of those 3, and without having Stolz and Engel here, not they're not elsewhere this weekend, Goodness knows who's going to come out.
Well, we've got 3 races at that final round. Let's take a refresher to the results. It was a 1-2 for the Lamborghinis, and it was Alto and Costa who came out on top with that drive-through penalty, or being turned into a time penalty, putting Weerts and Vantor first to the finish, but down in 10th place. 1-2 for the Lamborghinis, and Tomita and Van der Linde, they won the first race, 3rd place in the second race. No wonder they're right at the sharp end of the championship now. Arthur Rougier and Christopher Hassa, a recovery drive to 4th. They'll be pleased with that, but it could have been a question of what they could have achieved had they not been spun around. But 2 fabulous races here. Couldn't have been more different at Zandvoort. A lot to talk about and some real cameo roles. Look for Nick Foster as one of the stars of the meeting for SPS Automotive. But it's all about gathering points, and that is exactly what Tomita and Van der Linde did, and they're just half a point off the championship lead. Next stop, Barcelona.